Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I am Julian Mush. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about today The Bad Batch, Season 3, Episode 10 and Episode 11, which are entitled Identity Crisis and Point of No Return. The Rubicon, if you were in Rome. I think that's how, I don't know how that works. I think that's from Julius Caesar's diary or something like that, where he talks about crossing the Rubicon.
I don't know.
Which he considered to be the point of no return.
I don't know where the Rubicon is.
It's a river in Europe.
It's a river.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about ancient Rome.
Actually, I don't know if it's in Europe. I know for sure that the Romans dealt with it, but that's all.
Oh, okay.
The Romans were pretty big. I don't know if you heard, but the empire was pretty big.
I've heard that the Roman Empire is big for dudes.
No. That's not what I'm talking about.
It's just a thing that guys think about a lot, apparently.
Is that a meme? Is that a meme? That was a meme, right? Yeah.
It's like people asking their significant others how often they think about the Roman Empire, and it's like a lot of dudes. It's a lot. They're like,
frequently?
I don't know, like once a day. It's like once
a day? Once a day?
Why are you thinking?
I probably think about the Roman Empire like once a month, maybe.
That's still a lot. It's more than I ever think about it.
Well, there's just so many things that we still like reference and talk about and like are relatable to the Roman Empire today.
Fair enough.
Right? Especially when you're watching things like Star Wars, they're constantly like Praetorian Guard influences and stuff like that. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Star Wars, and there's lots to talk about, and we started a little bit late, so we should get into it here. All right, so if you're new to the show, here's the dealio. We're going to talk about the latest in Star Wars news, which today entails a trailer for a new animated series of shorts, which is very cool. We'll talk about that.
Cool.
Surprisingly, we weren't expecting to get that.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was like, but hey, I like surprise good news.
It's a month before May the 4th.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we're going to give you an early May the 4th present.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Then we're going to do a deep dive recap and review of both episodes of The Bad Batch that premiered yesterday. So we'll go into full spoilers on those, and of course we'll give you a heads up before we get into the actual recaps and reviews, because once we start, there's no stopping, first of all.
No.
And second of all, I can't be held accountable for what spoilers I may or may not say about Star Wars at that time. You really just got to keep up is what I'm asking. Okay, so that's the plan. Before we do that, quick reminder, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you want to help support the show, if you want to help directly support the show, I think I've been hearing more podcasts talk about that. I think it's a good way of phrasing it. Directly support us. You cut out the middleman and go straight to patreon.com. Technically, Patreon takes a small fee.
I was going to say they kind of are the middleman.
They technically take a small fee, but it's as close to handing me cash as you can get.
Yeah.
So, as I said, the other day, the website's up for renewal. It doesn't. It's not free to host this stuff. But it is fun to do it. So happy to continue, and I'm glad that we have support to help keep the lights on here at the Tower Bible Podcast Network. So that's one piece. The other piece is that we did the film club those are, by the way, exclusive to the patrons. We do monthly. We did the film club for Roadhouse. Yeah, Roadhouse, which I think I said this last week. Great movie.
Yeah.
Really great.
You can never go wrong with a Patrick Swayze movie.
No,
he's
We did since watch the Jake Gyllenhaal version.
Any good?
Much less great. It's fine is the best I can put it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. No one is Patrick Swayze.
No.
There's no way to replace him. I think the biggest mistake is that like Jake Gyllenhaal, not the entire time, because I think he realized at some point during that shoot that he shouldn't try to like replicate the effortless cool that is Patrick Swayze, because it's like it's good luck with that. And because there's a couple moments where he's trying to do it, including a scene where they replicate where he's being stitched up in the hospital one for one.
Yeah.
And it's a little cringy, his attempts to like be as cool as the Swayze master himself.
Like it's every time they've tried to redo a Patrick Swayze movie, it just doesn't work. Like Point Break.
Yeah, exactly.
The new Point Break was not as good.
Yeah, no.
The original one is like one of my top 3 favorite movies ever.
It's really good.
You can't remake it. Like it's just.
Well, it's supposed to because also I think you can't possibly take Surfer Bros that seriously ever again.
I guess that's true. But I don't know. They're just the way he does it. They're so cool. And it is also Keanu, so that helps. But
Yeah, he's actually quite charming in that movie. Yeah.
He's charming all the time. I want to invite him to my wedding, but we'll see.
Do you think he'll come?
No, but
well, you never know. He seems like that type that would do
he
do
might
that.
just show up.
Yeah.
Adam's pretty he's like, we're gonna invite him. I'm like, you need to figure out how to do that.
Why?
So.
Why do you guys feel like you need to invite Keanu Reeves to your wedding?
Well, we just both really love him a lot.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
He's a good dude. He's like my favorite guy in Hollywood.
Okay, he's your favorite.
And Adam's been getting into the Berserker graphic novels because they're all they're Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
He helped write them, and he's the main character. Like the main character looks like him.
Okay.
And these Berserker graphic novels too, so they're really cool. They're like super violent. I read the first one and I was like, whoa, that's wild. There's a lot of heads exploding and but they're good.
All right. I'll have to check that out.
I just think he's a real cool guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy and Canadian. Another. Add that to the list of great Canadians. This one I got right.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna make that mistake.
Not the Ryan Reynolds.
Not gonna make that mistake.
Ryan
I know
Gosling mistake.
I know Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. I know he is. Okay.
He is.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Correct.
Anywho, let's get into the news. So the trailer for Star Wars Tales of the Empire. Of course, we already have Tales of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Did they do 2 seasons of that? Or just one? Just the one.
1 and 2 seasons of Visions.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. So Visions obviously being like the anime.
Yeah, they're very different.
Side.
They got different artists to do. Different.
Non-canon stories with very divergent art from another. It's very different. It's cool, but it's not what this is. This is from Lucasfilm Animation. Just as against last year, I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before, that we got Tales of the Jedi on May the 4th, and it was a series of shorts that primarily, in that case, focused on Dooku's fall from the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
But also a couple other kind of random episodes, too, that also focused on Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was at least one other one. I can't remember. Then we have this, which is Tales of the Empire, which, as the name suggests, I think is a series of shorts that focuses on small stories around what's going on inside the Empire.
So cool.
Specifically, one that's particularly interesting around Barriss Offee.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So if you remember, Barriss Offee was the Jedi Padawan that frames Ahsoka for bombing the Jedi Temple back in Clone Wars.
Yes.
And she's still imprisoned. Obviously, people have been wondering where she's been for a long time. And
a
lot of people are like, oh, she's for sure an Inquisitor.
People were kind of speculating. Because she would have been imprisoned during Order 66.
Well, she was in prison before that. She was caught.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And then she was in jail during Order 66, so she wasn't executed, I guess, from jail.
Yeah.
So she's still alive. She is been given a second chance by the Grand Inquisitor. So the Grand Inquisitor's back. That's someone we haven't seen since... in fact, is this the first time we've seen him in Clone Wars animation? Very similar, not that different from the Rebels animation.
Very similar. They're not gonna probably mess with his look too much.
Although they did in live action, so I was kind of like, "Where's the squished head?
Yeah.
Give me the squished head."
His head's a little fatter in live action.
That's just more human. Anyway. Because of course we all know he's from Utapau. He's Utapawan. Yeah. And they have tall, pointy heads.
Yes.
Yeah, with ridges. Okay, so. That's one of the stories. We also see, obviously Vader makes an appearance, so that's kind of like a dramatic finale. What else do we see in the trailer? Am I forgetting?
I mostly just saw or was focused on the Barriss stuff, and then Barriss and Vader and Inquisitors. And did they really touch on anything else?
I think so. I'm gonna hold on. I'm going to.
I think maybe I just got too excited.
I'm gonna pull it up while we're talking about it, and we can just quickly peruse it. Yeah, hold on, let me mute that so we don't get a bunch of so we have Admiral Thrawn. Oh yeah, and
what's
her name? What is the witch from?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
The witch Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Morgan, this is her. And by the way, look at this shot of the sand. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That I was not ready for that. Obviously, most of this looks very much like what we've come to expect from Star Wars animation.
Yeah.
But what I've also come to expect is that every single time we get a new thing, whatever it might be, a new, in this case, a micro series of shorts, but maybe it's a new series. Obviously, there is a whole other series that we're expected to be maybe announced on May 4th that should follow or be the the next installment in the Bad Batch. People are saying that there's too much story for them to wrap up, and there's a lot of story threads that they could continue from the Bad Batch into a new series.
Gotcha.
So that it could be just another continuation. We go from the Clone Wars to the Bad Batch into whatever, into Rebels, again, into whatever the original trilogy. But I lost my train of thought. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm used to their level of production quality just taking another step forward each project, right? When we went from season 6 to season 7 of Clone Wars, that was a big step, right? When we went to even like the step from that season to the Bad Batch and their first, their premiere episode, I was like, wow, look at what they're doing with this lighting and the rain and all this stuff. It's amazing. And now we had Tales of the Jedi. They were doing some really amazing stuff with smoke effects and some of these other things we saw with like the Inquisitor that takes on Ahsoka. And now we have this trailer. And then again, obviously there's some base elements that are like similar enough, but you can see even I'm looking at this shot of Barriss being escorted out of prison with dark troopers, it looks like, or death troopers maybe, early death troopers. And you can just see that the lighting's a little bit more crisp and like look how it's reflecting off the helmets here. But again, what really wows me is when Morgan Elsbeth punches the ground.
I think it's right at the beginning.
It's right at the beginning, yeah. It punches the ground and like sticks her hand into the sand or mud.
Yeah,
dirt.
that looks almost like 3-dimensional.
Well, it looks.
Know what I mean?
It looks like better than Pixar.
Yeah,
to some degree. Like it looks like Moana level quality of animation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not. Is that Pixar? That may be Disney Animation.
I think Moana's Disney.
Yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying is very impressive, the visual effects. Or are you interested in this Elsbeth story, this Morgan Elsbeth story?
100%.
More Thrawn, that's cool.
More Thrawn, more Night Sisters. That's very cool to see.
There's some flashbacks, it looks like, here, because we see...
I saw Grievous
Grievous
at one point.
appears, and he looks really cool.
Yeah, so...
And we've got some sort of, like,
very cool.
magic scythes from Morgan Elsbeth. And I guess this is back to when Dooku and Grievous went and destroyed all the night. Yeah. So
very cool.
I'll be honest, I'm less interested in this story, but I am keen to see how Barriss Offee handles this whole situation with being like this recruit into the Inquisitor program. What that's all about. I mean, this is the stuff that gets me excited. The minutia of the Imperial machine and how it works, right?
Yes.
We get to see glimpses of like trial by combat type sequences and her getting her first spinny lightsaber. We get to see like an example of a few different lightsabers from Murdered Jedi, which is unsettling. Very cool stuff. And of course, again, we end with Vader's appearance, which is they handle really well. We see all the Inquisitors bowing before his feet as he makes an appearance. So yeah, and I love how, by the way, they did just similar to how they did the Bad Batch. They took the Tales of the Jedi logo treatment and then they burn away the Jedi, and then it's Tales of the Empire, which is cool. Again, and it's all coming. All shorts are being dropped the same day on May the 4th. I think it's all being dropped the same day. I'm pretty sure. On, of course, Star Wars Day, May the 4th, which will be the day before I go see Star Wars A New Hope at the Orchestra.
Oh, I'm going too. I think I'm actually going on May the 4th.
Oh, well, we couldn't get tickets for that day, so lucky you.
Better than you.
That's okay. I'll just spend May the 4th watching Tales of the Empire. Any other thoughts on Tales of the Empire?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for it. It was kind of like we talked about. Like, it came out of nowhere. I was pumped. I'm like, oh, that's
6 parts.
Like,
by the way,
I was saying kind of before we started here, I love just getting surprise content. It's great. So.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Although it's a little upsetting that they released it on the same day we had to cover double episode of The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
It just adds to the length of the episode. That's okay. So I'll just quickly read from some of the excerpts from the StarWars.com piece on the trailer here. As I mentioned, it's a 6-part series. Journey into the fearsome galactic empire through the eyes of 2 warriors on divergent paths. Night Sister Morgan Elsbeth and former Jedi Barriss Offee. Like the first season following Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku, Tales of the Empire focus on previously untold events in the lives of the featured characters. The trailer teases that we'll learn how a young Morgan Elsbeth navigates the expanding Imperial world towards a path of vengeance, while former Jedi Barriss Offee does what she must to survive a rapidly changing galaxy. The choices they make will define their destinies. Plus, the key art features Thrawn and the Fourth Sister, General Grievous, ready to do battle, Darth Vader, and the Grand Inquisitor, all making appearances here. We get the voice cast of Diana Lee Inansanto, who plays Morgan Elsbeth, Meredith Salinger for Barriss Offee, Araya Killistit for Lynn, a.k.a. the Fourth Sister, Wing T. Chow for Wing, Lars Mikkelsen for Thrawn, of course, Jason Isaacs reprises his role as Grand Inquisitor, and Matthew Wood as General Grievous. So
Yeah.
Kenobi. Anyway, Dave Filoni, executive producer, along with Athena Yvette Portillo and Carrie Beck. Josh Rhimes serves as co-executive producer, and Alex Spotswood is a senior producer. So, again, this premieres May 4th, 1 month exactly from now.
Yeah.
So be ready for that. And go check out this really cool poster. It's actually pretty cool. It has like the Imperial logo with like everyone. They love to put the faces in Star Wars posters, so they really do a good job of that. But we get some ISD, at least one ISD, some Venators in here. Obviously, as we said, we get Elsbeth and Thrawn, and I'm excited to see this. The Grand Inquisitor does look great in a better animation style.
Yeah.
However, his like design is pretty straightforward, so it's not like you're not really getting a lot of additional detail.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's bald.
They did
head.
round out his head a little bit more in this. He's not as
pointy.
not as long, not as long and squishy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the episodes quickly.
Bad Batch.
Follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, and the website towerbabble.ca, where you can find the contact us page, and the website, the email address towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com, where you can send in comments, questions, and concerns. I said comments twice, so if you have 2 comments, make sure to send that into the email address. Okay. Season 3, Episode 10, Identity Crisis. And the title, I think, is pretty straightforward. This is 100% related to Dr. Emery's, or Dr. Carr, her identity crisis that she's having.
Yes, absolutely.
As being I don't know, what would you say her job even is? Now it's head scientist.
Head scientist,
but before it was just like lab technician.
Yeah.
Okay.
Head scientist on the Project Necromancer.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I found that's a title I want to have on my business card.
Yeah.
Head scientist on Project Necromancer. I promise I'm not a Nazi. I promise.
Yeah.
In this case, these are space Nazis, so
100%.
Yeah. Written by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett, and directed by Brad Rao and Saul Ruiz. The logline states Emery confronts the dark secrets behind Hemlock's scientific research. And as they mentioned on StarWars.com, this is the only episode of The Bad Batch to not feature a current or former member of the squad.
Right. As
we focus entirely on what's going on in Tantus. Well, nobody that we know is there other than, of course, the villains. Carr, who I think people are sympathetic towards, but need to remember she is just following orders as she's extracting blood from children. So for the purposes of testing them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's not that great. She has an opportunity to redeem herself, but she's hardly she's still considered a villain in my books until that changes. And then, of course, obviously Hemlock, who we know, and Scorch and a few others make appearances. But again, no Bad Batchers in this one.
Yeah.
So overall thoughts on this first part of the 2-parter?
This episode was gut-wrenching. I cried. This was like a really upsetting episode for me.
See, this is what I hear when you have kids, and these types of episodes really hit harder.
I don't know, and it's like, I don't know. I know it's kind of lame, and people it sounds stupid, but that baby,
very cute baby,
makes the same noises as my baby.
Almost as if all babies make the same noises.
And I know they do that on purpose, but I don't know.
Ooga, ooga, goo, goo, gaga,
whoever
gaga, gaga,
was doing whatever the animation for how that baby moved and the things it got upset about and was attached to and the noises it make, it hurt my soul to watch this whole episode. You have to imagine someone with their own kid did that, was supervising. Oh yeah. And they were one step away from like it's a baby. Like we can all say that's a baby in its species.
Yeah.
Like it can't talk. It can like toddle around and like
she
do
calls it
stuff,
an infant later in the.
Yeah, like it's a baby, and like the only reason why it's not. I get why they had to make it like an alien species
because if it was a human baby, it'd be a bridge too far.
Bit, yeah, like it's
I mean, I don't know.
bit easier to digest.
I
as
guess,
an alien
but like they made it
know.
a super cute alien species.
So cute. It was so cute.
Yeah,
and I was upset. I was upset.
Yeah, it's upsetting. It's an upsetting episode.
But I mean, it's supposed to be. Like,
the whole,
this is the dark,
the whole
upsetting,
thing.
crappy part of the Empire, and it did what it was supposed to. It got me right in the feels.
Yeah.
So I was quite upset at the end of this episode, and
I gotta admit, did not hit me that way, but I do know that that's what they're going for. So, and I thought they, artistically achieved what they were trying to achieve. It was very cool.
Julian doesn't care about kids or babies, so.
Not about animated alien ones.
I know it's not real. Okay, it's fake. It was hard.
So we have Travis Mitchell back in the chat, who,
hey.
friend of the show,
yeah,
quickly has achieved friend of the show status, alongside Ryan Airy, who doesn't know who he exists. Travis Mitchell, I feel like either by the end of the show or the next animated show, Toto is going to betray Cad Bane. Enjoy the good guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe, but I guess we don't see Toto in.
I was just trying to think. Do we see him
in Book of Boba Fett? I guess not.
Anywhere? No.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's very possible. Maybe Seth Green is looking for a bigger performance. Maybe part of the good guy team and can be like a regular on one of the episodes, like a takeover for AZ. Although he doesn't really appear that much either, to be honest. All right, so we start on Karad, which is a cool name for a planet, but we've never been here before. This is a new planet. It kind of looks like the Indies, the Indies? Andes.
Yeah.
The Indie Mountains.
8,500.
The Andes, kind of like a village on a top of a mountain somewhere there. Very cool looking spot. A mother from what is not necessarily technically a new species. I'll pull this up somewhere. It's right around here somewhere. It was originally technically first appeared in Solo, in the background in Solo. So they are Tarlifars, which is a fun name. Hamster.
You know what they kind of look like?
Hamster looking like.
They kind of look like Furbies.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. They also have that. They do have that goat face that you mentioned.
Yeah, they kind of look. For a second, I thought they were the Goatals, but then I was like, oh no, they're not goaty enough.
They also have 4 ears, which is kind of cool.
Very cute. Just very cute. Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I mean, they do a very good job with visual storytelling in the first part of this episode. Not much happens, but you learn so much. So a mother, and in this Tarlifar species, and her baby, which we actually have names for them. Hold on, I should probably mention what those are.
It was like
the Bayron, the young child with the Force, and his mother, Eilish. Okay, got that. I'm sure that's how that's said. It's never said in the actual episode. Anyway, this mother and her baby are shopping at a market. The baby uses the Force on a vase after losing its toy. Bystanders nearby swear that they saw the baby throw it.
Yeah.
But an Aqualish, first of all, doesn't believe them, but does get suspicious after those same bystanders are like, shh, don't talk about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can attract the wrong kind of attention. So ultimately, this Aqualish, who are always the bad guys.
The worst.
Yeah, but they're like spider face looking people, butt face looking. Yeah. So anyway, he goes and he tips off a class 1 bounty. I thought that the way that they left the tip felt weird. It was like, I have a tip for a class 1 bounty hunter. Why would he know that class 1 bounty? First of all, does the average citizen know the distinction between a class 1, 2, or 3 bounty hunter?
They might, yeah.
Okay.
Because if you need to hire a bounty hunter, you'd want to know probably what type, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I guess I don't understand. Like, is this a known protocol? If you spot a Force user, you need to call it in this way?
I mean, yeah, maybe. Or, I mean, those bounty hunters do have like their like guilds too, right? So you would kind of know. I don't know.
Guess
they might have rankings in them. Bigger, badder, necessarily like.
Yeah, but how does he know that if he sees a baby, he should call him the biggest, baddest bounty hunter?
I don't know that, but yeah, maybe the Empire's just saying like, hey, yeah.
I don't care if it's a baby.
Yeah.
I want to see that biggest, baddest bounty hunter on scene immediately. Travis Mitchell says, was a bit confused as it seemed like the Aqualish had keys to everyone's house. I think he just lives next door.
Yeah.
Is what it, or like in like a door or two away.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that the way he called it in was weird. Really cool voice though.
Yeah.
I thought I don't know who voiced the Aqualish here. But yeah, really cool, like gravelly voice on that. Anyway,
takes a real crap
snitch
real crap snitch to call in Cad Bane on a baby.
What they say about snitches.
Yeah.
Although they do make, they don't. I guess they don't make it. They do make him look bad when he gets thrown the tips later, and he's like, oh, the money, oh,
yeah,
yeah. So anyway, he's selling his soul for a few credits here. I don't think I mentioned what my overall thoughts were on this episode.
No, you didn't.
I really like both of these episodes. I don't know if I know which one is my favorite. I think I would have to like sit back and think about it for a while because they're both feel equally awesome to me in different ways. Obviously, this one there's like no action, but it's so interesting exploring the dynamics of these kind of cogs in the machine of the Empire and how they fit together, and then obviously seeing how what the bridge too far is for someone like Emery.
Right.
So that's interesting. I thought that's super fascinating. And this one episode is at 8.3 on IMDb, and then Point of Return has an 8.8. So,
okay.
I also really like the next episode. Love the action in it. I think it's visually stunning. So cool to look at, but less interesting, although there are some exciting things that happen and some really interesting stuff that takes place.
Yeah.
So, hard to pick a favorite, though I loved Identity Crisis for just being so different. Choosing to step outside of the mold that is this show. And of course, we've seen episodes like the one last season, or in season 1, I think it was, with a young Hera and her whole thing.
Right.
And like that was a fun, divergent exploration of another different concept on Ryloth and all that stuff. And I love that. I thought that was some of the strongest episodes that season. But then we have really been with the squad almost the entire time ever since, even when they were split up in some way. So to have the confidence to step away from that entirely and show us what's going on at Tantus, even though no one we care about really is there, is a ballsy move. And so I thought they pull it off. So
I would agree.
And I think it does a great job of showing how desperate Hemlock is, by the way.
Yeah.
At this point. So long story short, this episode's great. Second episode, shocking in a lot of moments. Really intriguing with how it sets up things to go forward, but we'll get into that as we get into that episode. Okay, so back to Tantus. Before we do a quick check-in with Travis, I think Class 1 bounty hunters have specific contracts with the Empire, and the only ones sent after Force users, so people just know they'll be compensated more by these ones. Maybe, I feel like that's a stretch, Travis, to be honest. I don't think the average person knows which type of cop is being sent after the...
But if you're a person in this world that wants to make money and you don't care about how you're going to make it, it makes sense that you would kind of know these more nefarious kind of things, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
This is like the most minor gripe, guys. It's really not an issue. Okay, so we're back at Tantus. This is, of course, on Wayland. You can't forget to mention that. We start with Dr. Hemlock reviewing a new project, possibly another Clone X assassin. We're not sure. Maybe it's still baking. He does say that the other ones aren't ready to join our Clone X2 out there yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's hints at potentially a Dark Trooper program hinted at later in this episode, so we'll get to that when we get there. But I do like the eerie strings in the score here. I really feel like they're going for this like mad scientist who listens to classical music type vibe.
The score was very very eerie, but in a kind of in like a horror way, but like sci-fi horror way. I know what you mean. The very plinky. What is that called? The keyboard's like a synth.
Well, yeah. So so they have. Yeah. It's very synth heavy this episode, which is like you can play it on all sorts of different. Synthesized music can be played on all sorts of things, but you can get these really cool synthesizers that make have unique sounds and stuff like that.
It's always
I
so like
don't-
echoey, experimenty,
yeah,
like kind of
mechanical. Yeah, it's really.
It's like unsettling.
I
Yeah.
love a synth soundtrack of any kind. I think Kevin Kiner is crushing it
Yeah.
as per usual. If he doesn't get the chance to do a full Star Wars movie, I think it's a crime. Like I honestly feel that. First of all, it's a crime that we don't have Star Wars movies at all.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
the first crime has already been committed. But they have the opportunity to right some wrongs here. If they give Kevin Kiner, he is like the way he like weaves in. This is in the second episode, but the way he weaves in the Omega the theme, for lack of a better term, into that moment where she's saying goodbye to Liana. It's so subtle and nice. But again, in not entirely original in the sense that this is something that, we got from the original trilogy, this use of these motifs reused over and over again. How often have we heard the Force theme in Star Wars? All the time. But it's a great way to connect the viewer with specific emotions and feelings that are associated with either a person, a thing, or whatever. So his use of that, I think, is masterful. And by the way, not to mention that he wrote these new ones. These new scores are his original work, and obviously built off of the kind of original concepts of the original Star Wars scores. But I just think it's so good. Can't speak highly enough about Kevin Kiner. And I think he's involving his kids now in the production of it. Yeah, I think they play some instruments and stuff now too. So as Dr. Hemlock leaves his this part of the vault, I think we get a report from Dr. Carr. Actually, this isn't the vault. This is like that one weird part of the facility that we saw the Clone X standing at in the very first episode. And I was like, what part of the facility is that? And I don't think we've ever really seen it since. So I think it's where the Clone X's are made. So I think that's what we're seeing there.
Yeah.
So as he leaves, we get a report from Dr. Carr on the status of the lab, the cloning lab. Progress has, quote-unquote, slowed since Nalase's confinement. I love the term confinement.
Yeah.
Everything that Emery does is very particular, especially early on in what we've seen up till now, about how she chooses to interpret the actions that she's either being told to do or told about, or what she sees by the Empire.
She's participating in,
Yeah. It's all like, you're not a prisoner. You go back to your room, and she's like, "Don't you mean my cell?"
Your cell, yeah.
It's like so. It's like she's very selective not to use it. She talks about specimens and all these kinds of things. So she's very clinical in her language. Travis Mitchell, Dr. Hemlock did come off a bit stupid in this episode, a little bit strong there, Travis. Likely due to him dealing with the stress of Tarkin. But he did feel off. I agree. I think he felt, as I mentioned earlier, I think he felt desperate and not getting.
I'd say so.
Not getting Omega back, costing him a bunch of, I guess, political goodwill in the Empire to do that. You get the stark contrast between how he felt, after the Emperor's visit. I will have the full weight of the Empire behind it to get her back, and then cut to several months later, and he's like stressed out, and he has Tarkin breathing down his neck about the projects and the budgets and classic Tarkin stuff. But like, by the way, I love that Tarkin is come.
It's great. Here. Yeah, I do love that Tarkin makes that appearance to kind of talk to him about his spending, and it is.
I would have, there was a moment where I was like, I thought he was going to be pulled away to talk to Tarkin, and we weren't going to see it, and I would have been very okay with that.
Yeah.
Just the mention of Tarkin would have been, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then we get to see the conversation. I think that's even better.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so as they leave, Dr. Carr gets this, gives the status on the lab. Hemlock says that the Kaminoan can no longer be trusted, but Dr. Carr is looking for a promotion, angling for a higher clearance. She's like, "Well, you trust me though, right?" And so, but I can, I've worked under her for years. I'm sure I can take it over, right? And so you wish to be the new chief scientist. This is kind of, I think, maybe where Hemlock maybe come across as stupid, where it's like, you didn't pick up on that. Maybe first of all, you haven't appointed anyone else to lead this project, and second of all, why are you surprised that the second in command want the job? Like it just seems like that you're lacking some intuition there.
Well, that, and I feel like she's already kind of notorious for getting a little too close. So like it is kind of to me, it's a kind of a dummy move to give her this job. Like, I'm sorry, I think we can kind of see what's coming. Hopefully.
Yeah, but
But
what's the alternative? Like, who else would
that's
could
true.
he put in
That's
that
very true.
job?
I guess. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I guess there's nobody else around. You guys you gotta have more staff.
But
really.
he does she was the one that warned him about Omega's blood in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that earned her some respect.
That's fair. That's fair.
So he's like, okay, well, first of all, she says she believes she's earned it, which
Right.
I guess we'll see. And then they're like, okay, well, we might as well start the job now, and I'll brief you on Project Necromancer. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Let's not beat around the bush.
Fastest
Let's
promotion
get
ever.
right to it. So we're led into the vault where we learn more about what is stored inside it. I guess it's a lot bigger in there than I originally thought.
It was not what I was expecting either. Like, I was expecting the vault was going to be
full of those like coffin things, right?
Yeah, like kind of like those exactly the coffin things, or like frozen like carbonite, like more not just like creepy, like
it's a daycare actually.
It's worse. It's
it's a prison daycare.
Worse.
It's a prison daycare.
It's like we thought we're like, maybe they have Jedi, maybe they have caught,
We're thinking of it more like a sleepaway camp.
Yeah. I was not expecting children.
Evil sleepaway
but
camp. Yeah.
Makes sense for Star Wars and the Empire.
I think it makes sense for
I was like,
I think it makes sense for the Empire.
It's like they're really going for like the gut though, right? Like they're really, really like hitting it home. Like these guys are real bad. It's like they've taken kids. It's not adults. It's not Jedi.
Yeah, but we've seen this happen before, as they've mentioned in one of these.
Well, it's what they've done. It was what they were doing with Grogu. It's the same thing. They've always been looking for Force-sensitive children. They do it in Rebels, where they're trying to get the list right for the Force-sensitive children.
That's
when we see Inquisitors. So like we have been seeing this throughout Star Wars, but it's like we've always been kind of wondering like why do they want them, and like were they just like offing them so that they don't turn into Jedi? But so it makes sense now that I guess they're kind of winding this to be all about Project Necromancer and all about the
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't call this necessarily a retcon, but like you can go all the way back to early Clone Wars. Episode Children of the Force, where Cad Bane is kidnapping children on the Emperor's behalf.
Yeah,
right? Or Palpatine's behalf. He's not the Emperor at that time. So, we didn't know what they were doing with those children at that time.
No.
I don't necessarily know they know what they were doing with those children at that time.
Yeah.
But be able to say, okay, well, let's tie this back into this other thing, because, as you know, modern Star Wars is all about explaining how Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
All efforts must be laid out. We have to use every ounce of creativity we have to figure out why J.J. Abrams decided that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's interesting. We get again this baby daycare. Oh, it's not babies. There's no babies in here yet.
No,
there's just children.
Just children.
Just children.
Yeah.
It gets worse. They do bring a baby in later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we get this evil daycare, sleepaway camp, lab, right? And it's right away unsettling, obviously, right? But I guess I would say I was more surprised than shocked. Like I was like, oh, we've seen kids stolen by the Empire before. This is where they end up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, okay, makes sense. But I just, like I said, it wasn't quite fully what I was expecting to see.
I love how right away he gets started, like Hemlock gets right into business. He's like, these particular 3 were selected for their high M count. It's like, well, she could probably put the pieces together on that one, but it's appreciated that they let us know.
Yeah.
And then right away she's asking like, children, so like why not adults? Are there no adults that we can imprison here for this purpose?
Exactly.
Right. And I love that there are few of them left.
Makes sense.
Which
which is true. At this point, most Force-sensitive adults would have been turned into Jedi, and they're all dead.
It's true.
So and I guess here's the thing: the Jedi also scooped Force-sensitive children, but I believe they
did it in a nicer way.
Asked, like it wasn't forced. I feel like parents did have a choice; like they could say no. From what I think
that's true. I think
they're not just going to take your kid if you say no or the kid says no or whatever, right? So, but it's
it's problematic.
Real problematic.
Yeah. So, I right away we're getting insight into Emery's state of mind, right?
Yeah.
We know, and this episode is really about her, and they're again, as I said, not wasting any time, but we already know that she had a bit of a soft side.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they don't hesitate to show her hesitation
Right.
here. I think, a different show, a less confident show maybe, might have wanted to give us a hardened Emery here to remind us, oh, this is how evil she can be before softening her. But I think they trust us to know that, okay, well, she's actually gone through these other things with Omega.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's already left an impact. So how is that, playing a role now, even at this early stage of this episode? All right. So there's some dialogue here that I just wrote down like verbatim because I just thought it was so interesting. So, quote, this is from Hemlock, children are easier to attain and more agreeable to the subjugations.
Yeah.
He's also clinical, but less soft about it.
Right.
Right. This more agreeable to the subjugations. Right. Okay, great. They are unaware of why they're here and what they possess. Mm-hmm. As you know, M count cannot be directly replicated from the source. However, Nalase knew of another way, which is why she aided in Omega's escape. The young clone's blood is the only binder that is proven to be compatible with the DNA to recreate their M count levels, and why she must be found. Testing should proceed as planned. We should be prepared for every possibility once she's recovered.
Right.
So this doesn't necessarily the question of is Omega Force sensitive remains open.
Right.
This doesn't solve it, but we do know that there is something additionally special about her, at least the
blood.
Empire, which is that it's not necessarily that it has an high M count, though it might.
Mm-hmm.
It's that her blood performs as a binder. It's that she was almost created to be the next, like a tool in the job of cloning Jedi.
Yeah, right.
If Nalase could continue her work unabated,
right,
she, in theory, might have continued her work by cloning Jedi using Omega's blood.
Using her blood, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So basically, like, her blood can, my brain is not working right now. Her blood is the only blood so far that those midichlorians, you can take them and replicate them in her blood and like have more of them, right?
It's not entirely
working
clear.
Anywhere else is what I'm assuming. As a binder, that's kind of how they're explaining it, right?
Well, so they say that blood from a M count donor cannot be directly replicated.
Yeah, like you can't replicate the M count. So
right.
You take
so
it
you need to use like a again, this binding agent, which would be Omega's special property of her blood.
Right.
To
replicate
allow
those
for those midichlorians to
be cloned.
Become or to be cloned,
okay,
I guess. Yeah.
Because they're living organisms.
As Travis explains here, the explanation of Omega's blood was a lot in this episode. I had to rewind it like 3 times to absorb it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to like text my science friend and be like, hey, I know this is Star Wars and it's like made up, but like can you explain this to me in like microbiology terms on like what they're talking about? Yeah. It's good for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess this was I kind of hinted at. We didn't know exactly what it meant when her blood was like positive, quote unquote, way back at the beginning of the season. But we also had the sense that they probably already had Force sensitive people that they had their, that they could get their blood from.
Yeah.
That it wasn't necessarily that she was Force sensitive.
It's something else.
Or high M count positive or whatever you would call it.
It's something different.
Yeah. So interesting. I think I would love to quiz Nalase on what her plan was there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Scorch arrives to help to brief Hemlock. One of the younglings, meanwhile, chats with Dr. Carr. I'm going to call them younglings. She asks their name. She asks for Dr. Emery asks for this kid's name. But I love how Dr. Hemlock, who's having a conversation over there, overhears this little like exchange. It's like, ahem. Don't get involved personally. I saw what happened last time. I don't need that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't ask their name, their subjects, their whatever. Which is, it's a very evil scientist thing to do, which makes sense. But don't.
But he's already done it once. We saw him do it with
well, it's like with the clones
with her
too, right?
once before, and then also with Omega about how like you leave your sensibilities at the door. There's no place for friends here.
Yeah,
that kind of those kind of things.
Exactly. Like, don't ask those kids their names.
Yeah,
you're gonna get attached to them.
Quote: limit your personal interactions with the specimens.
Mm-hmm.
They are scientific assets, nothing more.
Nothing
unquote.
more.
And we talked about before, there are certain, everyone to some degree chooses to view things in a way that makes them feel less bad about living in this terrible world that we live in. Right. There's no, what's the phrase? There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. So someone's line is drawn somewhere else than yours is. You might be fine with eating cows, but someone might not be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
And to you, that's fine, but to them, that's like horrible behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And so in this version, hold on, it's coming full circle. In this version of that analogy, his line for this type of like coldness is way lower. The bar's on the floor. Right. So he's doing mental gymnastics essentially to justify testing on children. It's for the greater good.
Yes.
Right. Or for my own scientific achievement or whatever. So she has ultimately, Dr. Emery has ultimately been in a similar position where she has to kind of justify this stuff in her own head. And she's a little bit softened on it. And so her bar is slowly raising for kind of like, how much is too much? Turns out babies might be the line for her.
I feel like that's a line for a lot of people. Kids is still a line that should have been the first line. But I mean, I get it though. Like that's the progression, right? So she's seeing the kids and she's like, ooh, like I don't know how I feel about that. And then the next one that gets brought in, she's like, K. Like,
but why did she feel good? Why was she okay with having Omega as a prisoner? Because she was like her. She could relate to her because she was also technically a prisoner. She does mention that later this episode.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like these boundaries keep getting like her. Like she's getting pushed and closer to that line of like this isn't okay. Like,
yeah. Anyway, for now she's okay with just referring to them by their numbers, so that's fine. One of the older kids, though, meanwhile, clocks Hemlock using his data pad to open the door, which, by the way, was how Omega escaped, so I'm pretty sure they closed that loophole already, which we see that they do, by the way. But, again, we got the synthy score really kicks in here in full blast. We cut back to Karad. The mother and her baby are enjoying a snack together. Very cute laughter.
Yeah.
We hear Spurs and a shadow kind of walk past the door. Right away, I'm like, oh, there's Cad Bane. Because those Spurs, I mean, one of two things. Either Boba Fett from the original trilogy or Cad Bane.
Cad Bane,
right. And so Cad Bane, so I like how the mother is like, gets her spidey senses start tingling. And she's like, I have a bad feeling about this. She gets up, but then Cad Bane just opens the door and just stuns her right away.
Yeah.
Pretty cold-blooded, but expect nothing less from Cad Bane.
Yeah, at least he stunned her. Like,
it could have been worse.
Cad Bane.
I'm actually a little surprised he didn't just shoot her.
Yeah,
I think it would have been really crazy.
I
if they
would
did
bet that was a discussion in the writing room.
Should we just shoot her?
And it was probably like, do we shoot her? And people were like, that's gonna be too much. Like, you can't.
It's already too much.
It is too much. That's what I mean. I'm like, everything about this interaction, this scene is too much, and that would have been just way too much. You can't just kill a baby's mom in front of it. It's not Harry Potter.
Yeah, what they could do in Harry Potter. There's no rules.
But that happens already in the start of the book. You don't see it till later, so.
Yeah, still.
It's real bad.
No, they die from magic. It's like not even that bad. It's no like Bruce Wayne seeing his parents murdered in the back alley by a robber.
Right.
You know.
But
right. This is
glad they stunned her.
This is this baby's secret origin for sure. Anyway, so Cad Bane, which is fun to see here. We saw obviously in season 1, Cad Bane make a small appearance. Also on the hunt for, in that case, Omega, but now babies.
He doesn't care about scooping kids. He's done it.
No,
before.
This is just as he says, he's good at his job.
Yeah.
Right. Cad Bane abruptly opens the door, stuns the mother shoots her with a stun blast. His assistant robot Toto 360, who is played by Seth Green, tests the baby's blood. We get a green light, which prompts them to place the baby into an armored pram, kind of like the one we see Grogu in, floating, but much more angular, more
it's
imperial, colder.
Yeah,
it looks more like a crate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sad.
And I love how the baby is like crying because his toy is like doesn't have his toy,
Yeah.
and then he's like, shut him up, and Toad's like, I'm not a nurse droid,
yeah.
but then like figures it out really quick.
Yeah. He's like, look, I figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that is cute. I thought that was like the one thing that they did to like soften that whole scene. It could have been much darker.
It was not soft enough for me. I
Yeah.
had tears, fully tears in my
Not
eyes.
the baby.
I was like,
No. No.
I told you, I was like, he makes the same noises as my baby, and I was like, I cannot watch this.
Gurgling, goo goo sounds.
It's the sad noises that they got though. Like when he's like, whimpering. I'm like, okay, a baby whimpering is like, it's so sad.
Yeah, I guess it would work on me if it was like a dog whimpering.
There you go. Put it the same way.
Winston whines when he doesn't get his way too.
Yeah, like what if you took Winston's blankie? His dog.
Oh, he'd growl at me.
It's so cute.
Yeah, it is cute. It's quite tragic, actually. Similar to this story,
yeah.
His mother died shortly after childbirth.
Yeah.
He was not able to wean off of the teat.
Yeah.
And now sucks on his toys like a little baby.
It's so cute.
But he's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
It's a very sweet boy.
Yeah. Good boy, Winston.
Yeah.
He's probably enjoying popcorn treats outside right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so they escape with the baby, and as they walk by that Aqualish, he throws money at him. Thanks for the tip. And this is kind of like the Judas, right?
Yeah.
When he gets the silver coins, whatever, and immediately we don't know if this guy feels regret, obviously, but that's when in the Bible Judas feels regret when he gets his silver coins. And this idea of like picking up the money off the ground, it's just so debasing yourself for what, so you could sell your soul.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good short form way of showing how slimy that person.
Yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Travis, as we transition back to Tantus here, Travis has a
theory.
A theory. That's good. Yeah, theory. I wonder if Hemlock himself is a clone of a scientist who's been around for centuries, who has to keep cloning himself to keep seeing through his research, but is breaking down. We do know he has that like messed up hand, right? So I always thought that happened in like a experiment gone wrong, but maybe he is a clone. Although again, I think here's what I think. Okay, not to shoot you down, Travis. I think it's a very fine theory. I think Star Wars would behoove themselves by not doing as much cloning.
Right.
Cloning is cool, but if all we're doing is cloning, it becomes not
if
so
everybody's
cool.
a clone, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want like the in the 90s they did this clone saga with Spider-Man, and it got really out of hand, like really like clones of clones of clones.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just too much at some point.
Gotcha.
And so I would not like them to continue down this path of everyone's a clone. There's other theories out there too, like Omega is Rey's mom, which
and Omega's Avar Chris's daughter,
or what? All this stuff. Omega is just a clone of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Of Jango Fett, sorry. And with some unique properties in her blood, may or may not be force sensitive, still unknown, but unlikely that she's the mom of anybody we know.
Yeah.
I just,
Let's
it's
hope not.
still crazy that Rey is a Palpatine. Spoilers for that terrible movie, but that's we're spending all this time trying to like fit those pieces together. That one already, I guess, makes enough sense, as much sense as he has to be. As that sequence, like, what do you mean she's the daughter of a failed cloning experiment of Palpatine? Like, how did he escape? Maybe we'll see Rey's dad escape this facility at the end of the season.
Right.
Like, I don't know, but it's too much clones is
too many clones. Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, so Travis with a clutch reference here.
Yes.
Judas, who needs the Bible?
Yeah.
More like when Mr. Crab gets his 62 cents in exchange for SpongeBob's soul. Yes.
I understand that reference more than the Bible one, to be honest.
I do love SpongeBob. I do be loving
great.
it. Okay, so back at the lab, Dr. Carr is continuing her work with the specimens. She's trying not to use their names as they are tested, though. But we do find out, unprompted, she just finds out that the one youngling, which I can't remember the species, but looks like a demon with the horns, and red looks like the demon horns sticking out the side. Anyway, her name is Eva. maybe that sounds right.
Yeah.
Devronian. Her name is Eva, and she's got a very cute voice and her big cute eyes. She's the weaponized cuteness. I feel like is what Eva is here. So she's curious about what happened to Nala Se. You know, it's like, but this so manipulative from a child perspective is so funny. It's just that, you know, she promised she'd let me know. She said, oh, what did she promise she'd let you know? She promised she'd let me know when I was able to go home.
So sad.
Right? Like, it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
They do that
tough.
like a couple times when they say like the kids keep. I think it's she keeps
saying it. We just want to go home.
I just want to go home, and it's like that is one step away. Like the way you make that line hit harder is having one of them just be like, I just want to see my mom, and then everyone's crying. Yeah. Right. You're just like, yeah, we're all dead. We're all crying. Yeah. Yeah. Those kids just want their moms or dads, whatever.
Their mommy.
Yeah.
Nala Se, though, the excuse she's given is that she's no longer overseeing this project. Which, by the way, I love watching Dr. Carr, Emery, try to come up with the language for this explanation that doesn't sound terrible.
Yep.
Right? How do I say this in the most matter-of-fact way possible without making it seem like we threw her in jail?
Yeah.
So that's what she came up with. Anyway, apparently she promised to let the kids know that when they'd be able to go home. Also, these medical droids that are doing the tests kind of feel like a precursor to the interrogation droid.
Oh, like the probe droids? Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
That we see in episode 4, which is in one of the most shocking, I feel like, cuts that Star Wars has ever done, where Leia's in the prison cell, and then the droid with the big needle comes in, and then the door slams shut in like this really loud and fast way, and then they cut away. Yeah. It's like one of the most, not like horror style, but like they really leaned into the like drama of that moment, and that we don't see that very often in Star Wars. Thought that was cool.
And see, I don't get how, you know, Hemlock says that the kids are more like agreeable to whatever the procedures and stuff that they're doing. Like, kids hate needles. What do you mean?
Yeah, but they can't fight back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and they're easier to like once you kind of like.
No, I know. Once you kind of break them.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably. It's like, what are they gonna do? You know?
Yeah, they're just little. That's why. Yeah, whatever. We'll get to it later in the episode, but yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Carr goes to test the next specimen SP32, and this one is the oldest one of the group.
Yeah.
This little green boy, and SP32. This implies that he's at least the 32nd one, and by being I didn't, to be honest, I didn't catch what the Eva's number was. I assume it's higher.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of kids.
Yeah. And there's only 3 of them in that room.
Is it like, I feel like it's obviously more upsetting when you think of it. Like, and 32 is such a specific number where you're like, man, like they went through this individual process of having a bounty hunter find a child, or maybe they like rounded up a whole bunch from the Jedi Temple all at once or something.
Well, you can't, because Anakin killed them all.
He did murder them all. Not all of them, obviously.
Well, most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, some of them got away.
Master Skywalker.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Poor boy.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Oh, man. Wild that they decided to
I wonder
show
if
that.
they regret that. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
Anakin already killed kids, so it doesn't matter. Like,
the women and the children too.
So it's like he already did it.
I killed them like murdered like animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's widely regarded as the first moment he truly falls to the dark side is when he goes to rescue his mom. But you should really just be blaming the Jedi Order, because they did take the kid away and then leave this mom in slavery.
Yeah, they
could have easily done more to help in that
her.
scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not to dwell on the past, or in this case, the future. The past.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Why am I I'm thinking of the Acolyte, which would be the past to that. Yeah.
Extra past.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the little blue boy, SP32, which we later find out his name is Jax, he steals her data pad and makes a break for the door, but he's spotted from the observation deck, and the alarm is sounded. Of course, we get the classic Imperial alarm sound. Very similar, by the way, this room, very similar to the style of like the prison in Arcana 5 in Andor.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Like this above observation deck, this cylindrical style room. Yeah. Anyway, he makes a break for it, but the door is locked. Scorch and one of his commandos enters the room, and Carr does try to de-escalate things.
Right. Yeah.
But when the kid tries to make a break for the door, Scorch shoots him with a stun blast.
Yeah.
And then I love this line from Dr. Carr. Your actions were extreme, Commander. He was just a child.
Yeah.
And then the specimen attempted to escape. I was just following protocol. Is Scorch's response.
There's 3 of them. Like there's 3 Scorch and 2 other big troopers, and that is a small child. Like you didn't need to shoot him. I'm sorry.
You could just have picked him up.
Yeah, like just like, huh? Like, there's 3 of you. You couldn't tackle. Like I get
protocol.
it that he's force sensitive, so like that's probably why too that it's like a little bit harsher because he's not a Jedi.
And besides, they already had one of their most valuable specimens escape.
It's
They
true.
can't really risk.
But yeah, the protocol is now just shoot
kids. On sight.
Yeah.
But it is stun.
Yeah, stun. All right. Stun.
I love this right away. We have this like conflict between Emery and Commander Scorch.
Yeah.
By the way, we get Scorch named by name in this, which I think is fun. Like just the idea that he obviously named himself that way back in the Clone Wars era.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And now it's like, hey, he's this super evil bad guy, and Dr. Hemlock is Commander Scorch here.
Yeah, he's just cool with him being Scorch.
Yeah, is going to go ahead and do this mission.
Everyone else has to have numbers. And,
but this guy, Scorch.
Yeah, he's got a cool bad guy name. So.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just like that there's already this conflict between like the by the book methodology and then Emery's kind of more humanistic approach. Okay, so as we cut away, we hear a traditional Imperial trumpet blast. Which I love, the bum 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 stuff. It's like I don't feel like it's always exactly the same, but I do love the trumpet there. Carr is checking up on the stunned kid Jax. The other child though is asking if he's going to be okay. What's her name again? Eva is asking if he's going to be okay and if he'll be in trouble. She says no, he'll be fine, and you'll get to see him tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's this third kid there. We don't find out their name, the blue one.
Right.
But I guess she's maybe learned her lesson and is kind of just laying low because she's like constantly playing that like block stacking game, that little digital Jenga that they have. So, what do you make of these kids?
Yeah, I mean it's awful. It's crappy. You've got like 3 kids that just want to go home and.
They don't appear to be trained in the Force either. Like they're just
they don't know why they're there either.
Count,
You're just coming in there, taking their blood every day, like giving them crappy little puzzles to play with. Like it's very much, it gives me vibes of a lot of things, kind of like Stranger Things, where they had all the kids in that state. You know what I mean? In Stranger Things, where they're all like have their different powers and stuff.
Oh yeah,
the
like, Seven and all the
with
others.
the creepy doctors and the rooms and everything. It's just like. Obviously it's unsettling and you don't like it, and it's just showing you the like evilness.
Well, they have X-Men does this a little bit too, where if you have a young mutant, it's like then you can take them into custody, and it's like you're just a small kid in jail because you're different, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just and it's obviously from people selling these kids out, which is awful too. Like
or I guess potentially the Inquisitors. I don't know if they're operating yet. It might be too soon.
I think it's a bit too soon for the Inquisitors, But I mean, it's just Cad Bane and like other bounty hunters scooping up kids and bringing them to the Empire, which is just crappy. And
Travis with it wouldn't happen, but it would be cool if Scorch was the one who initiates rescuing the children in the next episodes. I think it would be cool if they were able to somehow like break his programming or something. I mean, but it's also unclear that he's programmed at all,
right?
Or that he just loves following orders, and that he truly does not question the orders he's given, right? Yeah. So we don't really know what his motivations are. I think that's obviously intentional. He's a side character, not a main character.
Yeah.
Though I would say it's fair to question it because we spent all this time with these other clones who are going through these crises of conscience, and Rex, who had to deal with it, and Gregor and others, right? Who obviously kind of fought back against that. Bad Batch, another example. But we've seen the Commandos as being like this hyper loyal group, and it's not clear why that's the case. And so understanding that would be fascinating, but I think they're intentionally kind of keeping that vague because they don't have to describe. They don't have to tell us everything.
Yeah.
Travis, the kids are red, blue, and green, so I thought of Alvin and the Chipmunks. Yeah, that's fair.
That's very good.
Alvin and Chipmunks, by the way, worst Christmas album. I think we can all agree. There's no reason anyone ever needs to listen to that high pitched crap.
No.
At Christmas time, there's so much better Christmas music you listen to. Anyway, and if you want great Christmas music from an animated show, Charlie Brown's Christmas is right there. Just classic jazz. So that's I own that record. I love it. It's one of my favorites. Truly great Christmas music. Anyway, so where was I? Back to Nala Se. So Kara pays a visit to Nala Se in her cell. She has questions regarding her work. Nala Se rightly knows that this means that Dr. Kara has seen the specimens. She's made that connection. So Kara interjects right here by noting that the specimens are in fact children. Yeah. Right? Pointing out that she was herself once I thought this dialogue was a little clunky, in my opinion. It just felt a little bit like, I think you don't have to tell us that you were once a child. Everyone was once a child, right? But I guess they're trying to say that, she was in a similar position because she was kept on Camino, and then she makes this statement about like, are you going to discard me like, was your plan to discard them like you did me? Which I guess the idea that she was kind of like Omega, or her assistant like Omega was, until she wasn't. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then was sent off to work with Hemlock, or we don't know how that all comes together. Right. Obviously, she's still bitter about that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Well, it just feels very much that she's not free, right? So.
Yeah, but again, she was fine with that until now. Yeah. And she was fine with that even when she was working with Omega, even when that was clearly a situation that Omega had no interest in being. Yeah. Right? She spent that entire time trying to convince Omega that it was fine and great to be here. Right? And that, oh no, we're doing important work and it's better if you just don't ask questions.
Maybe that's how she's convincing herself.
Sure. I'm convinced that that's true. But I'm just saying it's interesting for her to come to Nala Se, ultimately her mother figure. Right? Yeah. And be like, hey, you were treating these kids just like you treated me. Yeah. And is it get worse for them? Like how do I fit into this? Right. Yeah. And it's very important that Nala Se like rightly points out, is like, this is not my idea. Yeah. I did not start this program. Exactly. Right. You could argue that this all started when she created Omega in the first place, and that by doing that, she set the events in motion that led to where we are. Yeah. But that does feel like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Anyway, the Empire will keep them in order to control them, Nala Se says. Right. And I love this line from Emery here, is they don't belong here, which is, of course, something that Omega said about all the clones in the facility. We don't belong here. You don't belong here. She said that time, no one does. Yeah, yeah. Right? And she didn't even know about those kids. Right? And that's wild. She agrees with Kara's indignation, but points out that she was a prisoner here as well. It wasn't her choice. She made a decision to protect Omega, and to some extent at the expense of the other children, but did her best effort to protect them during that whole process. Yeah. Right? She was kind of between a rock and a hard place, right? She knew that she couldn't keep Omega at the facility. It was only a matter of time until she was discovered, and she knew what that meant. Right. Right? But she also had a responsibility to these children. Ultimately, she provided Omega the opportunity to escape, and by doing that, she made life harder on these children. And this is a trade-off that she has to live with now. Right, yeah. But she's at least acknowledging that this is that was the decision she was put in and the position she had to make. And ultimately she had an inkling that I think that Dr. Emery was going to end up taking over for her. And she says, now they will look to you. What will you do, Emery? And calls her by her first name. Right? Yeah. By the way, why does she have two names? It's so weird. Emery Carr. Where does that come from? I hope they explain that.
First and last name?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but what other clones have a first and last name?
It's true. Yeah, it's very true.
what would their last name even be? I mean, obviously Boba Fett.
Fett.
Right? yeah, I guess. Emery Fett.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. That's wild. Anyway.
I mean, Nala Se has 2 names.
Yeah, but she's not a clone.
Yeah, I know.
As far as we know.
Maybe she just, I don't know, named them. She's like, yeah, this
and
one's
also
Emricar.
the
But yeah, I
all
have
of
no
the
idea.
all the Kaminoans have those weird 2
they do.
syllable names. Anyway, Emery says, "There's nothing I can do. I don't have that kind of power." Which is, of course, she's kind of self-deluding herself a little bit on that because she was just promoted to head scientist, right? And this idea that there's nothing you can do in it is inherently a lie because, of course, you have an opportunity to make small choices all along the path to make things a little bit easier, or delay the work, or all these other things that you can do to stall or to improve the situation for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of just pushing that off herself. And don't you? Nala Se says, don't you have that power?
Don't you? Yeah.
So she exits the prison and runs into Hemlock and Scorch immediately. I love how it's played as a bit of a jump scare. She's like, whoa, what are you doing here? Right? And so a new specimen is arriving today. Commander Scorch is being sent to retrieve it. He mentions the escape attempt, but tries to ease her concern by saying that this new specimen won't be any danger to her, which gives you insight again at how he feels about even what he's lost so much of humanity, he can't even understand why she's unsettled. He thinks that she's unsettled because she thought she was in danger.
Yeah, like the kid was going to attack
her.
Yeah.
But that's not why she feels that way. She feels that way because she's upset that there's experimenting on kids at all.
Exactly.
So I just think that's, again, a good inkling into kind of Hemlock's inability to understand other people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, like Travis said, he's a bit of a dummy in this episode.
A bit of a dummy.
Yeah.
So Carr interjects here. It says that she would like to accompany Scorch in the retrieval mission. I think the idea being here is like right away she's picking up on I can do something. I do have I do have some power here. Immediately putting that into action. He pushes back, insisting that if the specimens, that she doesn't have to do that. Oh, that's not necessary. But she's like, no, if the specimens are so important, like you said, then I should oversee that they are quote unquote properly maintained at every stage. Hemlock seems to want to push back here again, but he's interrupted by a message from Governor Tarkin. So he says, just do whatever you want.
Right.
So I love, by the way, did you catch this? Scorch gives Dr. Carr, even through his helmet, the stink eye.
No, I didn't
as he
catch
walks
that.
by, because it's like, I'm obviously going to come with you then. And then as he walks past, he just gives her like this side eye.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
You need to watch me do my job.
Travis Mitchell, didn't consider we could see Grogu and Kelleran Beck trapped here? I could see at least hinting to them.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, I guess so. He's 50 years old at the time of Mandalorian, so he's still, I think, on the run at this point.
Yeah.
We don't know where,
right? Yeah.
How that all comes together, how he's ended up back in Imperial custody.
See him in Imperial custody at some point.
I think it's more likely we would see them in a different facility because I think Tantus won't exist after this. I think what's ended up. Here's my prediction. That they're going to free the Zillo Beast,
yeah.
And that's going to ultimately destroy most of the facility. It'll be released into the wild on that crazy planet. And then the whole thing, that some sort of reactor will melt down. They'll escape on a shuttle and the whole mountain will explode. That's my prediction.
But they're going to save the kids.
Yeah, well, most of the clones and the kids are going to get saved.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Not all the clones are going to make it, though.
We will see if that prediction is true.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Zillo Beast.
I guarantee that Zillo Beast is coming back.
Yeah.
We know it's there.
Yeah. Do we know it's on Tantus?
Well, they hinted at it, and they brought back... I'm pretty sure they brought the other one back to Tantus from that last season episode.
Yeah,
and they talk about when the Emperor's there, how they've expanded the facility to store larger assets.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Travis, Hemlock gets swallowed by Zillo Beast like Farquaad in Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Hopefully. I think that would be the comeuppance we'd all be looking for.
Big bad guy gets eaten by a monster. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, or shot in the head, but then more likely he'll get eaten by a monster.
I don't think Bad Batch Animation is going to shoot him in the head. Sorry.
They've done decapitations.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
All right. Just again, I love that stink eye from Scourge. Okay, so we get the meeting with Tarkin. So Hemlock takes a call from Tarkin in his office. To what do I owe these summons?
Yeah.
I would love that line too.
Summons.
Tarkin has concerns about the Tarkin always has concerns, and secondly, it's always about the Imperial finances, and it's technically it's his job to worry about that, and that's fair. But we also know that really he's a narcissistic, power grubbing, groveler. I don't know how you'd put it, but he essentially wants to. He doesn't just care about that the Empire is doing well. He needs to be the one responsible for it.
Yeah.
He wants to get all of the credit. As we see, he steals the credit from Krennic in Rogue One for the Death Star. He's probing here about, tell me more about this project that you're working on. Maybe I can help if it's so important, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like being kept on the out of what's going on. Oh, it's a project that's, a personal interest of the Emperor, right? So he can't even argue with it.
Yeah.
So now he's like, okay, well, tell me more. He doesn't want to know more because he cares about the project. He wants to know more so he could have leverage on Hemlock, leverage on the project itself. And then at the end, he throws his classic, bad guy, to the henchman type of threat, which is if this project doesn't go as planned, it's gonna be your head on the rolling or whatever.
Send Vader down there.
Yeah. Right. Careful not to choke on your aspirations, director. Anyway, it's a fun sequence. Tarkin has concerns about the finances. Hemlock has requested additional funding, even though they're already spending a lot of money. Hemlock reminds him that the project is of personal interest to the Emperor. Tarkin probes for information, but I love throwing it's classified in Tarkin's face.
Yeah.
Especially
because with these guys, you don't really know what their ranks comparative to each other
he's a governor, technically, still at this point.
Oh, okay, so he's not like Moff.
Moffs haven't been invented yet.
Ah, okay.
I
guess not. It's too early.
Yeah.
He's not Grand Moff Tarkin.
Right, no, because they pass. Remember, they talk about how they dissolve the Senate in episode 4.
Right, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, how are we going to maintain control of these systems? And then Tarkin's like, the regional governors will maintain control over their systems, whatever.
Right.
And then he invents Moffs as a means of being like another layer of bureaucracy above governor.
Yeah.
Because he's a governor here, and that's not high enough. So he needs to create himself a new position.
Yeah.
So
I just mean in terms of like scientists though too, like because they don't necessarily have to, answer to somebody if they're doing work for
the Emperor.
Right? So he's like, well, it's none of your business. Like, mind your own beeswax. It's Emperor stuff.
I love how again he's like, well, if it's so important, maybe I can help. He's like, no, the money will be fine.
Yeah.
And so that's good.
Yeah.
It's worth the expenditure. You better hope so. If this project fails to yield the proper results, it won't bode well for your operation or you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Clunk.
You
hang
always
up the
have
phone.
that threat. Yeah.
After Tarkin hangs up bitterly, we see Hemlock review what appears to be an early Dark Trooper concept. Has the same eye shape thing.
Yeah.
We know that the original Dark Troopers were human of some kind, enhanced humans, kind of like Halo's version of their super soldier. It's like a super soldier concept. The Spartans in Halo, of course. The Spartan 2s, of course, are the best. Everyone knows that.
Sure.
That's what Master Chief is. He's a Spartan 2. Anyway, we see him reviewing this work on his little tablet. It switches over to what appears to be maybe a new Clone X concept. We're not sure what the other one is. I'm sure we'll find out later in the season. Anyway, this inspires him to call Clone X, which is why you can kind of create this connection. Well, if he's looking at this and then he calls the Clone X, maybe those things are connected.
Right.
And he's looking for an update from the field. This is the same one that survived the fall, by the way, from the waterfall.
Yes,
and
same
Clone
one
X
fighting Crosshair.
Yeah, Clone X2, I think is what they call him.
Yes.
States that he's tracked down the Trandoshan. He's talking about Sid here. And we just talked about this last week.
Yeah, but like how they found them or to find them, which makes sense. I like the way they did it here. It was quick, like kind of the way they
Yeah, you don't
sum
the
it up.
Trandoshan. You don't have to mention Sid.
Yeah.
We know exactly what they mean,
Yeah.
right? Short form. Pulled some intel out of her, which
Yeah.
does a little unsettling what she might have
Yeah.
done. Trandoshan's notoriously tough, right?
Mhm.
So you got to not easy to extract information from her, especially a Trandoshan voiced by Perlman. What's her name?
Rita?
Rita Perlman.
Rita
Yeah,
Perlman? Yeah.
extra tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gave up the name of Fee, a pirate,
Yes.
right? Not a funny. He didn't mention a liberator of ancient artifacts.
Yeah, I know. Pirate.
Yeah, a pirate.
Yeah.
Hemlock wants to send support, but quote, the other operatives aren't ready to join you in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Clone X insists he can do it himself, but taking a page out of Tarkin's book, Hemlock reminds him that he's already failed once and he's out of chances.
Yes.
He's not to return unless he has Omega. Then we linger on, the call has ended, and we linger on Hemlock's face, and this is where I really feel like you get that confirmation, really, that he's super stressed and, on edge, off his game, worried here, right? He's got the Empire breathing down his neck, and his soldiers aren't getting the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So next we go to the space station over Coruscant. We go to a lot of places in this episode, and I love the design of this space station, this orbital station over Coruscant. Cool to see Coruscant at all.
Yeah.
Even just from afar. And we don't spend a lot of time here. Carr and Scorch arrive at the space station and dock along the side. They meet up with Cad Bane at his ship in a nearby hangar. Really cool looking ship, always has been. Anyway, Cad introduced himself by saying, "You're not the usual Imperial that they send." And she says she's there to inspect the specimen. Toto, bring out the kid. He loves calling these things kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Classic line from Bane. The baby is shown to Carr, who is surprised that it's a baby.
It's a baby. Yeah.
She's shocked. She said, "This specimen is younger than I expected." And she looks to Scorch as if to blame him for the lack of intel, which I like. Again, this kind of funny back and forth we have with Scorch, which she says, well, he'll be less trouble this way, which is certainly one perspective.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. I hate that man. I hate him.
You don't like Scorch?
I don't like him.
Yeah.
Especially just that. He'll be less trouble. It's like, how do you have no soul? Like that, you're just like, well, he's a baby, so
I
he
don't know.
can't
Maybe they
escape.
did some sort of experiment and extracted his soul.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, yeah, you're right. It can't even talk. Like, you're awful.
Yeah. Anyway, she tests the baby with the same handheld tester that Bane used early in the episode. We get the same green light. And at the same time, Bane is handed a suitcase full of cash, which is always nice if you're a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
She asked how many other specimens Bane has captured, and he just says, "Let's just say I'm good at my job," which I feel like we've heard him say that before.
Yeah.
She follows up with another question. And where did this one come from, this infant come from? And this is interesting because I'd like to know what you're reading on this. Bane says, asking questions like that, you give away more than you think. What do you think he's trying to say
I
here?
think he's clocking her in, like,
as
her,
a softie?
as being upset. Like, he's definitely clocking her as. But Cad Bane's so funny like that because he'll say things like that almost as a warning.
Yeah.
Kind of.
He's like giving her a little bit of a education here for some reason. Like, why?
But he's kind of, he's telling her, like, I'm clocking you on that. Like, you don't like this. And also, like, where did this baby come from? It's like, why? So do you want to take it back? Like, why would you need to know that?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So he knows that she's not pumped about this whole scenario.
No.
So it's like, if you want to know where it came from, that tells him that maybe you want to try and take it back. Which you should, because that baby needs its mom.
Yeah, I also think it's like, hey, if you're gonna be operating with these these characters here, the Scorches of the world,
yeah, you can't be.
You need to be a little bit more buttoned up than this.
Yeah,
and also it makes me look bad. This is very unprofessional of you.
Well, that's the thing. Don't ask me like where I.
Don't ask me that.
Where I get this baby from.
Don't ask me that.
Don't ask where I snatched this baby.
Yeah, like there's a line in. It happens in a lot of movies. But it's specifically the one that Brian stands up for me. In The Green Knight, have you seen The Green Knight? It's really cool.
I don't think so.
It's a really cool movie. And then there's a scene in that. It's a Legend of the Round Table story.
Okay.
And in this movie, this guy meets a ghost.
Okay.
This knight meets a ghost, and then he asks, like, "How did you die?" And she's like, "Don't ask me that.
Yeah.
Why would you ask me that?" And it's like one of those things. It's like,
the implication is like you are so naive that you asked the dumbest possible question that you could
Right.
like
Right.
literally any other question would have been acceptable but that one. And
Yeah.
this is I get the similar vibe here. It's like why would you ask me that?
Yeah.
No, be better, be smarter than that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Toto finishes counting the money. They quickly depart. We end with a POV of the baby from the pram looking at Car and Scorch as it closes into the cage that it is. It's okay. This baby won't remember any of this.
Yeah, I'm just saying right now, I can't handle one more episode or one
You
more
know the baby's
moment.
going to be back.
I know, but I can't handle watching that baby be sad and miss its mom. I can't handle any more sad baby.
Okay.
Or scared baby. No, he just needs to be like having a good time.
Well, he actually is kind of fine. He's just like
I know he has
he's got his toy, so he's fine.
Cuddles, but yeah.
So back in the vault, the new specimen is kind of checked in. As she's heading to the next specimen, she asks, Dr. Emery asks, one of the droids where Jax is. Apparently, it's, quote, standard operating procedure for a subject to be isolated for 2 rotations as punishment after an escape attempt.
So he said, what do they call that in jail? Solitary confinement, yeah.
So, a little harsh. 2 days of solitary confinement for a kid, bit much. I found when I was a kid, 1 hour of church felt like a lifetime, and I hated it.
Or like a timeout where you have to like sit in the corner for 15 minutes. But
Travis, Luke didn't remember that time he was chased by a lunatic with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
no, of
true.
course
And he
not.
was like way older too.
Yeah,
it's true. Babies don't remember much. But
I certainly don't remember being a baby. People say that some people claim that they remember being a baby, but I'm skeptical.
I saw something recently that Nicolas Cage says he remembers being in the womb.
Of course he would say that. Of course he would say that. That's Nicolas Cage.
Crazy.
What a crazy person. Yeah.
I love him. He's
crazy.
so
weird. Do you see those sideburns he had at the Oscars? Yeah. That was funny.
I should invite him to my wedding.
Yeah, you should.
He might actually show up.
He would. Did you watch the movie where he plays himself? The new one?
No.
I would like to, I think.
No.
Something A Massive Talent or The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, I think it's called. Yeah.
I haven't even heard of it.
It has Pedro Pascal in it, too.
Oh, okay. Great.
For Star Wars reference.
Yeah.
Okay, so turns out the Empire made a liar out of Emery already because Eva is like, hey, what's the deal? You lied to me. You said he wasn't going to be in trouble, but he's in trouble. And he just wanted to go home. We all just want to go home. So this obviously is like breaks her heart, Emery's heart. She's like, oh, that's so sad. So she takes one more look back at the labs and then heads to her lab where she's testing the blood samples near that infamous centrifuge. We see her looking over files, stopping at Omegas. This gives her an idea. By the way, as she's flipping through these different files, we see like these little like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but we see these little green dots that seem to represent some type of sample reading or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the same as the other one. Omegas is the same as these other kids.
Okay.
Ones. So to me, it implies that she does have
more
sensitivity, or she does have a high M count.
Yeah. M count, sorry.
Yeah. They are both midi-chlorians, and it's the same thing. It's interchangeable. Anyway, so she's like, great idea. I'll grab this toy that I confiscated from Omega, and I'll give it to this other girl, and this will cheer her up. What do you think the long-term plan is here? Because, like, you know that someone's going to spot that toy really really
I mean, they
quickly.
do give them stuff. So, like, they do have, like, those games and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, if Hemlock sees that, he's just going to probably be like, where that
like,
come
we
from?
talked about this. This is, like...
Yeah, like, it's just going to be another reason for him to reprimand her. But...
Yeah, but again, he doesn't have much choice.
Yeah.
They have to make sure that stuff is on schedule because Omega is on the way.
Yeah.
They don't know that yet, but soon. Anyways, so surprisingly, we see that Car has kept Omega's homemade toy. We cut to the next morning, and Eva is greeted with the toy outside her cell. Car is looking out from the observation deck, and we see a small smile on her face. So I guess the implication here is that she is going to be a softie.
Yeah. She's got it. Yeah, she's got it in her.
So she's obviously going to help them escape, and probably is going to die in the effort. Is my guess.
Likely. Yeah, I would say that's
Although
pretty
it
good.
honestly would be interesting to see a full-grown clone like this have to, like,
exist in the real world for a while.
Yeah.
That would
She'd be able to
yeah.
exist in the real world like easier than a regular
Sure,
clone,
but I think
but...
all I mean is that like she doesn't know anything about the real world.
No,
but
I
she's
just mean,
fully grown.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
mean because she doesn't look like the rest of them, right?
Yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah, no, you're right.
I bet she does kind of look like the rest of them, just not like as
Mhm.
much,
Mhm.
you know? Okay, so that's episode 10. Quickly, I'll read the IMDb review here because we're already getting late into this episode.
Yeah.
This is from And Mickelson, written on the 2nd, titled "A Dark Experience," a 9 out of 10.
Mhm.
This was a great, at times haunting episode that gave us even more insight into Project Necromancer, the extent of it, and how the Empire has no limits when it comes to achieving their goal. This episode was darker than most and even a bit emotional, as the inclusion of children really changed it all. Lots of... This person loves the exclamation points. I'm not reading it... Like, literally every sentence ends with
an
an
exclamation
exclamation point. Maybe their keyboard's broken and they don't have periods. This is the kind of episode where you really start to hate the Empire and want to see our characters succeed. Another great Clone Wars character returns, as his inclusion makes sense as he has done this job before, obviously alluding to Cad Bane, in another Clone Wars storyline from Season 2. Emery also gets some screen time, and we see through her just how far the Empire is going this time. I'm glad this is a two-parter because I am excited for the next. Love the honest enthusiasm.
Yeah,
here.
you're right. Every sentence
Yeah.
did have an exclamation point.
Yeah, war. The dead
dead
speak.
speak.
Yeah. By the way, the war is the best opening crawl
Yeah.
start. War.
More.
Yeah. Is that episode?
In the Clone Wars
that's-
voice. Yeah.
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 Right. I can do it. That's
Yeah.
I
Can
have to have the right sentence to say. I
Yeah.
can't really think of it. I had like an example in front of me, I would do it. But Emery confronts dark secrets behind the Hemlock scientific research.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, right. Okay, here we go. On to the next episode. We have lots to cover. This one's technically 2 minutes shorter, so hopefully that'll save us like good 15 minutes of podcast time.
Sure.
Okay, season 2, episode 11, Point of No Return. And I guess let me quickly read the logline for that one. The Empire closes in on the Batch. That's all it says. This is also directed by Brad Rao and Nathaniel Villanueva, written by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. Story by George Lucas, of course. He always gets story credits.
Yes.
Obviously. Did invent the whole thing, after all. Okay, so much bigger cast in this one. And by the way, I feel like this episode, they use more character models than we've maybe ever seen Lucasfilm use at any one scene at a time.
Yeah.
Like, of the, at least close up. Obviously, we've seen like larger group shots and stuff, but I just feel like they were so reluctant to use, like, to show us Pabu with people
with people
for this,
yeah. It
and
was
then,
like
like,
we've always just seen the clones, and
it's so
no one
weird
else,
to me.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, okay, well, hey, just a reminder, people live here.
Yeah.
So
here's everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so season 2, episode 11, Point of No Return. Obviously, in this case, maybe I shouldn't say so obviously. How do you interpret this title?
Yeah, I think it just, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, this is the point of no return. Like,
Losing
there's-
Omega, or her decision to surrender, or I feel like that's what it is. It's her decision to surrender, and then ultimately cast them into a position where they have no choice but to dedicate the rest of their entire lives to finding her and freeing her.
Yeah, like
right?
exactly. They're backed into a corner. There is no real choice. They're not going to be able to escape this island. There's also no going back to this island and stuff either, right? Like, it's now or never, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this is where things really amp up.
Again, I alluded the Romans at the beginning of this episode. The idea that you have to ponder this concept of the point of no return, that it is a decision that you have to make to step beyond it. Obviously, in the example of the Romans, it was crossing a river,
right?
In the Rubicon, which of course is my favorite type of Jeep, the Jeep Rubicon.
Jeep Rubicon.
But that this is a choice that Omega intentionally makes. This doesn't happen to her by accident. She chooses to surrender, knowing that it is the only way to save the town. So I think that's fascinating. Travis Mitchell, key thing at the end, last we see Hunter, he's on shore with Batcher, not far from the cave CX's ship is in, which is where Ventress landed hers. I think Hunter snuck on the ship.
Oh, maybe.
It's true. We don't see Hunter again, and it would be crazy if you brought Batcher back too. Like, how do you?
Yeah,
that
both
ship
of them.
is not big enough to hide both of them.
No,
Right.
but Hunter is that his whole thing is stealth, right? Like
Yeah.
hunting and tracking.
Although he
stealth,
does get
but-
spotted in this episode.
Yeah, he does.
Very uncouth of him.
Yeah,
Way to skip right to the end, Travis.
That's fine.
Yeah,
it's all spoilers.
Yeah,
It's
all spoilers. Okay.
and it's a theory, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Love the theories.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. All right,
Yeah.
so we start on a moon base, and I love a moon base.
Mhm.
First of all, I love the opening shot of this. The whole vibe of it, it's great. We pop in with a ba-ba-ba sound, classic Star Wars sound. We get this really cool shot of like a gas giant with a ring and like this rocky exterior. Then we pan down with this ship landing, which is we see his Fee ship, onto this moon base that looks an awful a lot like the moon base that Obi-Wan is on and where Padme gives birth.
Oh,
Just from the
okay.
exterior.
Yeah.
Yeah. From episode 3. But so Travis, with a better explanation, I'm not going to say better. I'll just say another explanation of the point of no return. In a literal sense, the point represents the mountain of Pabu,
Mhm.
the paradise lost, and the home they can't return
Yeah.
to after this point.
Definitely.
Yeah, you know what? It is better.
Yeah.
That's better.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Keep it coming. All right. Again, I love this. I love the opening to this episode.
Yeah.
Right away, we're, I feel like we're drawn in really quickly. So, Fee lands her ship at this station. She starts. She asks for a fill, which is fun, and is giving a hard time to her droid about not listening to her when she asked it to, quote, scour through the green goo.
Yeah.
When I tell you to scour through the green goo, you scour through the green goo. I thought that was a fun line.
Yeah. It's like, I don't care if it's corroding you or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, I don't
I'll
give a
fix you.
Yeah, if it melts your wiring,
Yeah.
I'll repair you like we did on Andro Prime, which is a planet we've never heard of before. But she also mentions Scar Anal,
Mhm.
which is an episode, a planet from an episode we did spend time on. If you recall, it's the one where they found that giant walker super weapon
Oh, like
situation.
the big.
The one that seemed like it was maybe from the Zepho.
Yeah, the one. Yeah, it looked like a Pokemon.
Yeah, it did kind of look like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
One of like the
legendary
legendary
Pokemons.
ones. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it like shooted. It shot laser beams. Shooted. Yeah,
It's shooted
getting-
laser beams.
It-
Pew pew.
It's getting late
Yeah.
over here. But yeah, it shot laser beams out of its face.
Anywho, I will just say that that whole side plot episode was really wild.
It was wild.
What a time we were
Yeah.
living in when we were just like we're gonna spend an episode about this alien species that we're not going to explain. We're not going to confirm it's the Zepho, and then we're going to reveal this giant mechanized weapon, and then leave and never talk about it again.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
See you never.
I missed that Megazord thing. It's a shame it was destroyed right there.
Megazord. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It was a Megazord.
Yeah, thanks, Travis.
Uh,
Okay. So she's giving her droid a hard time. She asks for a fill from a bipedal droid, but we see that Clone X is watching her. By the way, that bipedal gas attendant played by Matt Lanter,
yeah.
who
love it.
voiced obviously
Voice
Anakin in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Love that little cameo.
Yeah, it's a good one. Anyway, we find out that Clone X is watching her. Clone X sneaks onto her ship as she heads into the back room and hacks/slices, because they call it slicing
Yes.
in Star Wars, into her computer. An alarm goes off, but it's not noticed and quickly is kind of shut off.
Right.
I'm not sure what she's doing in that back room, by the way, because she doesn't pay. She's not paying.
Yeah.
She pays later. So I'm not sure what's going on. She unloads her droid
It's a gas station.
to go. She's
snacks.
getting snacks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she heads back. It seems that she gets a sense that something is off, but when distracted by the droid named Ollie, by the way, asking for payment, Clone X makes a getaway. She does approach the ship with caution, though. She has her blade out.
Yeah,
and
she's got her
stuff.
blade out.
Yeah.
She senses it.
But she's not. Clone X left no sign. There's
Yeah.
nothing for her to sense at that point. As Fee leaves, we see the Clone X dagger ship head off in a different direction and makes a call back to Scorch. He says he's cracked into her Navi computer and extracted the location of an Outer Rim world. He's on his way to do recon now.
Right.
Scorch puts a full division on standby, which is a lot. We obviously see that's an entire Star Destroyer's worth of troopers on standby should he get a visual on Omega.
Yeah.
that episode was saved by the fact that the design was so unique and detailed. Yeah, I agree. It again going back to that Scar and All episode,
the Megazord. Yeah.
Yeah,
the Zepho beast.
Yeah, it's likely she does, but I wonder if Fee knows about Tech dying. She must know.
That Tech died? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they would have talked about it, and she would have seen the Bad Batch like since that happened.
Yeah. And
yeah. Because remember her and Tech had that like flirty
yeah, I know, but
going on.
What's wild? Okay, I know he dies at the end of that season, and I know this is technically children's content or whatever, but no, there is no reckoning with his death. No one talks to anybody about Tech's death.
Yeah,
about how they feel about it, about what it means now, about Fee who had a crush on him, right? Yeah. How does she feel about it?
Yeah.
What or
how does Crosshair feel about it?
We don't know.
There,
we don't know even how Crosshair thinks about it.
Yeah.
I think that is a crime.
Yeah.
It's a crime against art.
Yeah.
Or at least good storytelling, or good character work. I don't know.
You're right.
Above?
It's we don't really. I guess we can't really know if Fee knows about Tech, but I would assume she does.
Yeah, but we're now too far beyond.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't go back and talk about it now. I mean.
No.
I'm sure it'll come up. There'll be some sort of Tech reference still. We get one today in this episode, but even then, it's like touched on so lightly. So I don't know.
Yeah.
People still think that the Tech's gonna come back, and maybe that's why they're doing it. But how? I don't know.
Yeah. Because we didn't actually see him die, which is a thing in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's
true. It is a thing. But yeah, I appreciate how they did this with Clone X finding out their location. I'm glad that Fee didn't sell them out.
Right.
Because I would have been kind of upset.
I don't think she would have.
I don't think she would have either. So it's nice that they do it
Sid
that way.
for sure would have.
Yeah. But even Sid didn't fully sell them out. She kind of sold out Fee, but it's, at the same time, she basically still, in a roundabout way, sold them out. But this is kind of what we thought last week, because I feel like we did say that it could have had something to do with Sid and Fee, because they're the only ones that
who
really kind of know where they are. So, but I just very much appreciated that he just kind of went and stole the data, and in a sneaky way, not really no torture, no making Fee betray her friends.
Mm.
So that would have been.
Do you think that the Empire is going to remain on Pabu? Like,
I doubt it. I don't think Pabu's like so small. It's literally just like this tiny little island.
Right, but that's never stopped them before.
No, I mean I can definitely see them like setting fire to it,
or leaving a regiment, like maybe an outpost there or something.
Maybe, but like there's not much there. I think that they would
like. But like, are they gonna bail? Like, what I'm sensing is this, because like the Dagger ship has Omega, and that returns directly to Tantus.
Yeah,
but the Star Destroyer is still there, and it's presumably also from Tantus.
Yeah.
It's because it's full of a bunch of troopers, like the clone
like
commandos and stuff, so they're going to have to go back.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right.
But I can imagine them leaving, like, I don't know, a small squad of people to, like, oversee the town or whatever.
Yeah. Well, especially because they know some of the Bad Batch are
that's what I mean. Like, the Bad Batch are still there. They're just going to be like, later, we don't, who cares about them?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe they are often overconfident, and that's often part of their downfall. Travis says the next episode is the Juggernaut one, and isn't the trailer and in the trailer we see that what looks like Acid being rescued from one of the Batch and Fee. So I'm curious how it all ties together. Acid being rescued from one.
I think maybe that's a typo, but I don't.
I wonder if you. I don't know what acid means in this reference. So maybe I'm misremembering something. Travis, help clarify this. Sid.
Okay.
It looks like Sid. You're right. There's just an A in front. We should have figured that out. Being rescued from one by both Batch and Fee. So it's possible that she's in a prison camp and that they're going to go rescue her, but she has no intel on. Maybe that's their only lead potentially.
Maybe, yeah. About like who.
Yeah, like
who's
how did that happen?
Or,
obviously, they have to do something. Right.
Yeah.
And wait, and if we know that from that trailer, isn't Hunter in that Juggernaut scene? Doesn't seem like he's on. He's stuck on that ship. Travis, your theory's falling apart here. I could be misremembering. Maybe we didn't see Hunter in that sequence, but I'm pretty sure we do. And maybe it's possible that they did one of those things. It's unlikely because it's much harder to do this in animation than it is in live action. But add stuff to the trailer that is intentionally misleading.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
In Rogue One, we see those Juggernauts tanks used as prison transports. We could see people on Pabu or Ord Mantell are being taken into prison colonies. Yeah, same. That maybe that they're not going to leave it, but they're going to load up all the people and put them in camps.
Yeah.
Which is very Imperial of them. Anyway, we're on Pabu. It's a peaceful evening, but the batch is in the process of loading up their ship with supplies and rations. Wrecker continues to load the ship as Hunter and Crosshair head back into town to grab some final supplies and pick up Omega. I love how he's like, well, if I'm going to stay, bring me back an ice cone, which is a snow cone, obviously.
Yeah.
No, make it 2, which is good. Yeah, it's good. So what did we see here? Shots of the bustling market. So this is where it's like, where were all these people?
Yeah.
Why did we wait till now? And I know you needed them for this episode, and but I feel like it's, a little bit of a cost-cutting measure. It feels like it's like we're just gonna focus on our core characters, and that's the stuff. We obviously it's a town. There's obviously people here, but we don't have to show them.
Yeah.
But it is weird. It just feels a little jarring. Is my point. Let's see here. Shots of the bustling market and Omega visiting museum at the top of the city with Liana. We haven't seen Liana since last season.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's weird to just have her pop up. I
forgot about her.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I was like, what? I didn't remember this girl's name. I had to I looked at the IMDb and I'm like, it's like, okay, Liana Hazard, played by Andy Allo, but I didn't remember if that was the actual name of the character or not until later in the episode when she says her name again.
Shep too. We haven't seen Shep in a long time.
I know.
Yeah.
Why do they just appear now? It drives me absolutely nuts. Travis defending his theory here. I'm guessing that Hunter is going to Tantus and then escapes and then regroups to organize the assault. It's possible. I'm willing to see it through, Travis. We'll see. Okay. I'll give you props if it happens, for sure. I think the snow cone moment was a reference to the meatball sandwich scene in Point Break with Gary Busey yelling, "Get me too!"
Yeah, get me too.
I mean, maybe. There you go. You got a Point Break reference in this episode.
Love
we just talked about Point Break at the top.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Let's see here. Where was I? So Omega is leaving some treasures behind. I can't remember the name of this museum. We talked about it last week, but I didn't have time to go and find the name of it again. Anyway, she's in the museum. She's leaving some treasures behind: text glasses and her stuffed animal.
Yeah.
He says, "Pabu is the first place that ever felt like home. This way, a piece of us is always here or still here." I think it's a nice sentiment. I think it makes for this is a very cool moment in any time you can leave your little token behind or carve your name into a tree or whatever. I think for someone like Omega who's never had this kind of attachment to a place before, maybe she felt that with Tapoka City to some degree, but was more a prison than a home, so whatever. She wants to have a memento, and it's nice that she's not taking a memento, but she's leaving.
No, she's leaving,
which is I think a nicer
Sweet.
message. Yeah. So they're leaving because Hunter believes it's safer for everyone, of course, which we know already because they're on their tail here. Liana hopes they'll come back. We hear a sad version of Omega's theme, leitmotif play here. One of my favorite versions of it that I've heard, I think. Wrecker and Gonki joke about there not being enough room on the ship for their gear.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny. Oh, and then Travis continuing to defend his theory. I don't think he actually got on the ship. It's too obvious. It would just be a Hunter thing to do.
Yeah.
You have to put a tracker on it. Yeah, fair enough. And he does seem to go the right direction. They look like they're going towards that cave.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If they really want to screw with us, they would have revealed at the end as Omega is sitting on the ship that the CX is holding text glasses. Because he took them back because he's technically. Yeah, it's not true. That's just how I feel about that theory. I just don't think it's true. It's not tech. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and just I understand that they're brainwashed and stuff, but there's no hints to make us believe that. It hasn't behaved or speaks or makes some analytical reference or literally anything that would make you think it was. So it's unlikely. Maybe I shouldn't say it's not, but it's not. Okay. Wrecker and Gonki are joking. I love that Gonki, by the way, is just like become this like staple of the team.
So cute. I love like Wrecker. I always think it's cute when they can understand the droids, even though it's just going like gonk, 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 like over and over. And he just like, it's like, okay, I didn't realize gonk droids could talk more than just saying gonk, gonk.
Well, I mean, EVO or whatever in Rise of the Skywalker only says like one thing.
Yeah.
Actually, no. He actually speaks English, right? He's like, that's my bad. I'm thinking of a different droid. That EVO droid or whatever in Rise of the Skywalker does kind of like...
Are you talking about the one with the little wheel?
The little wheel.
Yeah. I was like, he speaks a lot.
Yeah, that one speaks a lot. Well, and R2 speaks in bleeps and bloops.
Yeah.
In binary.
And people understand him.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, you speak binary?
I think it's just cute. I didn't think gonk droids.
Gonk, gonk. Yeah, you just thought they were just like, they were just walking batteries. Yeah. But it's nice that they've got some characterization.
Yeah, it's cute.
Okay. We hear the sad version. Back in the market, Hunter gets a funny feeling. His spidey senses are tingling. And I love this because we get this beautiful shot of the sunset, these birds fluttering away, and he's not sure what it is. He's like, I don't know, something's off, right? He's got a bad feeling about this, right? They didn't say it, but it's implied.
But he's got it, yeah.
And I like how Crosshair's like picks up that he's picking up on something, right? So he's like, okay, we're out of here. Calls of Omega, we're getting out of here. Meanwhile, though, Clone X is up on the roof and gets a visual on Hunter, but he gets visual on Hunter and Crosshair, but more importantly, he does see Omega here. And immediately he calls Scorch and is told to wait for backup. Let's go. Don't rush in again this time.
Yeah.
Wait for backup from the division, and is given a green light to eliminate the other clones if they get in his way.
Which I'm surprised he even called Scorch right away.
I also like how Scorch gives him like his like he kind of thinks about it when it comes to like should you kill the other clones, and he's like yes, but like at least you have to think about it.
Kill him.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. There's reference to Gonki. Travis, there was a moment in the in the Slithervine episode where I thought Wrecker would drop him into the thing's mouth and blow him up. They would never do that to Gonki.
No, not Gonki. They always save him. Yeah, Wrecker always makes sure Gonki's saved. Dio. That's, yes.
Dio. Yeah, it's voiced by J.J. Abrams. He says, hello, sad, and no thank you.
Yeah, sad. Yeah. No thank you. I love that.
No thank you.
No thank you.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
That was one of the nicer moments in Rise of Skywalker in what is ultimately a terrible movie.
Yeah.
And I know people say that about The Last Jedi, but they're wrong, and I'm right about
We're not going on that tangent.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand people feel strongly about that movie, but
stop it.
If you're going to hate a Star Wars movie, hate the right one, and the right one is the worst one in the series, which is just a series of random events that we've now built an entire sub-series about explaining one dumb line. So, and not only that, they revealed information in that stupid video game that you had to play that game if you wanted to get more information about where the Emperor came back from. So I am bitter about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Clone X climbs up on the roof. He gets visual, calls Scorch. Shep and Liana say their goodbyes to Hunter and Omega, but as this is happening, Clone X is planting explosives on the Marauder from a distance using a classic crosshair trick with his rifle. Luckily, Wrecker spots one of them just in time, reacting to grab Gonki as the Marauder explodes.
Yeah.
This is the first shocking moment that happens to me.
I know.
I haven't been this upset since the...
I know, you really like the Marauder.
I love the Marauder. I think it was the coolest ship. Mm-hmm. And it was like, they had kept it for so long.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
And, obviously, in The Mandalorian...
It's like in The Mandalorian when, what do they call it? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, the silver one.
Yeah, when it gets exploded.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know when they started this thing where they're going to start blowing up ships, because it was not a thing before.
I know.
And I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out there.
We get really attached to those ships, Star Wars, okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're like in this case, it's literally their mobile home.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I get why they did it, because this is the episode where you do something like that.
Yeah.
But it still bothers
you have to
me.
Strand them, yeah.
Right?
It's a bummer. It's a huge bummer.
Oh, man.
I was super choked when, Mando's ship got exploded.
Yeah, but he gets a way cooler one. I wouldn't even say cooler. I think the N1 that he gets, like
Is neat.
is cool, but it's a little impractical
Yeah.
for his work.
So small. Yeah.
And like, especially as a single dad, like
Yeah.
you don't have the room.
You need more room. Yeah.
you need
to
the
live.
where's your minivan?
Yeah.
You know, you had a minivan, it was exploded.
Yeah.
So what do you do instead? You buy a muscle car?
Yeah. Two-seater.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
That's not. Come on, not a good look, Mando. And so I would like to believe that the batch is going to end up with a cool replacement ship that they'll sell millions of Lego sets of. But
Yeah.
I do kind of want to get the Marauder Lego set now that I'm thinking about it.
That's why they exploded it, so people wanted to buy the Lego sets.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think it's part of the story mostly, but then there's part of it's like, well, we can give them a new ship, and then that will be cool too. Right. So, and then I'm not sure if they establish if there are space-worthy ships on Pabu, and I think the idea is that there isn't.
There isn't, but Fee would come back.
Yeah, Fee would come back, and if they can get a message out, they can talk. They can get a message out to Echo. Yeah. So we'll see. Anyway, the ship explodes. The explosion shocks the town as Hunter jumps into action. He spots Wrecker in the water, not dead, or at least unclear, but we find out in the very next scene, as they pull him out of the water, that he's unconscious but alive. Hunter starts giving orders to the young clones. We find out we haven't seen them since that Slithervines episode.
Right.
That they rescued early in the season. Mox, Stack, take Wrecker to the ships. Deke, get AZ3 to patch him up and fast. Right? And I love how they're like, yes, sir. We'll get right into it. Love that little moment. Thought that was really fun. Love to see it like an adolescent clone with something to do. Give them purpose. Right? As Crosshair rightly points out, ships don't just explode. Right? They must have been compromised. Someone referenced, I can't remember which podcast I listened to or where I saw this or heard this. Might have been on Twitter. I can't remember. But someone was like, they better not waste any time next episode with anybody questioning whether or not Crosshair had anything to do with this.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a weird backstep or retread, and I don't think we need to do that.
No.
But I could see them being skeptical of, like, you let her surrender. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, gotcha.
Were you really in on it? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't like that drama. I feel like we would be re-going over the same stuff that we went on early this season, and we have new shit to worry about.
Exactly, yeah.
So just then this is maybe my favorite moment in the entire episode. We get this really great musical cue, and then the Venator appears over them in the sky, over the town, hanging ominously over the island.
When they do that.
I mean, ever since that Jeddah ship or that Imperial Star Destroyer hanging over Jeddah in Rogue One, it's such an ominous. It's like the perfect visual representation of the Empire's iron fist. Being squeezed,
and just like how ominous and oppressive they can be just by showing
literally
up and
casting a shadow over this once peaceful village, and obviously it's in clouds, and you get the glow of the hangar door or the hangar bay as it's just such a cool. And by the way, again, the idea of this being a Venator is very specific because we're shortly after the Clone Wars, and they were once seen as heroic vessels, and now are being seen, or they're reusing that idea of what we're used to in a very different way, and it's very effective, and I think it's super cool.
You just forget how massive they are until you see them in that aspect too. It's just they're so ominous and looming, and it's very, very cool.
Travis throwing in his favorite time he saw a Star Destroyer when we see it revealed in the lighting in the maw, and it's being lit up by cool. Lightning, essentially. Very cool. That is very cool. I just like I like that moment too, but you don't get the same scale. And in here, I feel like you get this really. I mean, this is a little bit even smaller, but Jeddah specifically, you get this real sense of how big this Star Destroyer is, and kind of how many people it can carry, and again visual representation of it looming over a town. So yeah, love it. But really, ever since they were like, actually, you can put Star Destroyers into atmosphere, which we didn't know you could do before. They were like, oh, great, let's do that
all the time.
It looks super cool.
It does
and I'm
so
like,
cool.
I have no notes. So really cool. Hunter has everyone get to cover, and then the music ramps up, and we get some really big, bombastic horns as the action really gets into effect here. And so this is where invasion starts happening, and it's really action heavy. So we get Clone Wars era gunships, the LAATs, the light aerial assault transports, something like that. And right away I was thinking, because the classic move and this is funny because they even address it later in the episode, but at this moment I was like, oh, lats. Interesting. They're using lats here. You can't steal a lat and escape to hyperspace on one of these.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So they don't really have, and now with their ship exploded, they have no escape.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously we see the Clone X, order them to destroy the skiffs and all these other things that they might have used to try to, buy space and time or whatever. But using the Venator with the lats instead of the shuttles gives them total domination over the airspace, essentially.
Yeah. Way smarter.
Yeah, it is way smarter.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't see Wolf here,
No.
which probably means he's already been fired.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Right? And so we see the lats, which I love the lats, love how they sound, everything about it. They land in the town square. It's full of TK troopers, something we haven't normally see. We expect to see clones coming out of them. And clone commandos, led by clone commandos. They march out into town. We kind of get that jackboot scene where they like stomp over stuff and like knock over tables.
Kick over tables of fruit.
Yeah, you guys are so
in the
intimidating.
market.
Ooh, you stepped on my fruit. So Clone X orders them to destroy the skiffs and bows to cut off their escape routes. This is done by the LAATs. Of course, it's fun to see them being used in this much more ominous, evil way. Omega blames herself, but Hunter reminds her that it's the Empire and not her, and to stay focused. I thought this feels like, I know they need to set up this idea for later, where it's just like her needing to sacrifice herself for the sake of the town.
Right.
But this didn't seem like the right moment to have this like weird exchange with Hunter.
No.
It just felt a little clunky. Crosshair, always on mission, says that the Empire is destroying the skiffs and jamming their comms. His assessment is that the only way to escape, and this is when I was like, oh, okay, well, now they thought about it already. The only way to escape is to use one of the gunships to make a break for it and contact Echo. So they would have to make a break for it, somehow get beyond the reach of that Venator and all the other LAATs, call Echo, have him get there fast enough so that they could jump aboard and then jump to hyperspace. It's a stretch of a plan. It's not a great plan, but they don't have a lot of options.
No.
Right? But I at least appreciate them like thinking through this concept. Like, what do we do? How do we get here out of this? Like, let's, thinking on your feet. This is one of the things that the Batch are best at. Hunter volunteers to steal the gunship and has Crosshair escort Omega back to Shep's place to wait for contact. Clone X orders the TK troopers to lock down the town and search for every domicile. I think that might be the only hint that this might be Tech, because I'm pretty sure Tech one time called houses a domicile.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the one point I will offer on that one. Travis Mitchell wondering, I wonder if that beast comes out again and starts attacking the Imperials.
Oh, the tentacle?
Yeah, the tentacle. Yeah, maybe. I think we probably won't see much of Pabu going forward, is my guess. And if we do, it's going to be under Imperial occupation, and they're not going to be that interested in... as Shep points out, they have no way of even fishing now. No. So, they're going to have to rebuild their skiffs or figure something out, because they have, they're kind of screwed,
Yeah, exactly.
And they've, for all intents and purposes, been kind of sentenced to death, because if you can't fish, there's not really a good way to sustain yourself on that island. No. For at least not a long time, not for that many people. Okay, so Shep confronts Clone X, but Clone X is not phased, simply saying that he's hunting a fugitive that they've been harboring. She points out, Shep points out, that in the process of hunting this fugitive, they've destroyed their means of making a living. But Clone X is, again, unfazed, warning them that he could do worse. He's like, I've barely done anything. What do you mean? I could have burned down, I could have airily, bombarded this entire island if I wanted to, right? So I'm using restraint, actually. Yeah. Right?
It's like, do you want all your houses
classic
burned down?
This is classic cop shit, tell you what, right there. So I love this client. I know the girl is here. Until she's turned over to me, your island will burn. So this is pure, this is just pure intimidation, right? We see a few shots of TK troopers harassing citizens. This is kind of this continues throughout much of the episode. Batcher, though, can't stand for it. Real not a fan of bullying. No. Just does not like it. And doesn't want to listen to Omega. Runs off, attacks one of the troopers, then hides in a house, and then the troopers go after it. And I was like, oh, is that the last we see of Batcher?
Yeah.
No. Unlikely, because Crosshair's like, no, Batcher can handle herself.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah. Which I thought was I thought that was a bit odd. That not usually how they handle Batcher. And secondly, Omega being like, okay, yeah, you're right. Seems a bit weird in that moment, but again, we're intense moment, right? See here, Travis says CX was a bit dumb when he takes the comlink, again, skipping a little bit ahead. I think Omega has turned it on and has it transmitting to Echo when they get out into space. Again, did he take it with him? I don't think they took it. I don't think he took it with them. I like the idea that like she maybe had two comlinks.
That's what I was gonna say.
I like the idea that she had two, and then like here it is,
yeah.
right? And then like she
Got
still
one in her
has
boot.
one. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too.
Right.
But
I don't
see.
think that this is as dire a situation as they were at the beginning of the season, where
No.
they had no idea where the Tantus was. I think
the only other
Travis is onto something about there being something else to this.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of is maybe Rex can get buddy with Wolf again, and Wolf can tell them where Tantus is.
That's yes, but also I think Wolf is probably just a prisoner in Tantus now.
I mean, probably, but
right.
You never know.
You never know. There's a lot of angles to play here. Anyway, so Omega makes it to Shep's place, and we run into Liana and AZ. Wrecker's vitals are stable, but he's still unconscious. Outside, we see Omega and Crosshair looking at some troopers, searching homes. Again, more harassment.
Yeah.
Hunter takes out a TK trooper in the square in an attempt to hijack a gunship, but is spotted by another trooper. He makes a dash. I love the way he makes this dash where he like hides behind the crate and then jumps on it and then jumps onto the lat. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool like beat. And so he gets onto the ship, but things are just not going well for this group. I mean, I think this was pointed out in the Screen Crush recap, but it was like everything that they do, they fail.
Yeah.
Everything they attempt to achieve is a failure, right? Crosshair can't hit the ship.
Yeah.
They
find
Hunter,
the comm.
They find the comm. Hunter can't steal the lat. All this stuff. So they're being kind of not necessarily outsmarted, but certainly outmuscled by the Empire in this.
Well, because
it
happened so quick, right? Like they don't have enough time.
It's very similar to how Omega was stolen last season. It happens really quickly. You aren't prepared, and next thing you know, you're on your back foot, and you're just trying to make it out alive. Never mind, kind of achieve your ends, right? So he gets onto the ship. He takes out two more troopers on board, but he can't make it to the pilot, who warns Clone X that his vessel is compromised. And in response, instead of doing anything else about it, he shoots the pilot, which is a badass shot, by the way. Shoots the pilot, causing it to crash, which was, I thought, a really cool moment too. As it like, first of all, badass to shoot the pilot. Then it starts spinning. He's in the like open sides, right? And then luckily it's water, so he gets thrown out into the water, and he's wearing his armor, so he's okay.
Yeah, close enough to the ground.
Yeah, but also like it would hurt a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But thankfully, he's wearing his armor. So, Travis, taking off. I know this is a long one, so I appreciate you sticking around as long as you did. Great to have you as always. And again, we encourage more folks to join us for these live sessions. We record every Thursday at around 8 o'clock.
Come chat.
And join us for the conversation. It's fun. All right, so maybe, no offense to Travis, but he has had a lot of ideas. We might be able to speed through the remainder of this episode here. So, okay, where was I? That lat is shot down. A cool sequence. Back with Crosshair, Hunt, and Omega, the Empire is closing in. Inside Shep's, they figure out a plan, or at least Omega does. Crosshair says Hunter would want us to stick to the plan, right? Always a soldier, right? And the plan was wait for contact, stay there until wait for word, but they don't have time to do that.
They're checking everywhere. Like they're gonna get there eventually.
Omega knows that it's not an option, and suggests having herself surrender to spare the town and track her back to Tantus. It's like, listen, we can save the town, 2 birds, 1 stone. We save the town, and you track me back to Tantus. I trust you, right?
Yeah.
She says, this is our chance to finally rescue the clones in prison there. Always selfless, never thinking about herself. Crosshair points out all the flaws in her plan, right? It's like there's too many variables. It's a bad plan.
Yeah.
Right? But, any plan in this scenario is better than no plan. And insists that this is her choice, that she gets to choose. Again, as I talked at the top of this part of the episode, is that she chose to cross the point of no return.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know that if you step into this mission, you know what you're signing up for. That base is going to be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether you're in it or not, obviously, ideally not, but you understand what you're getting yourself into, and so she makes that conscious decision to step forward. I love this, though. Focus on the bigger mission, Crosshair. I'm just a small part of it. Which is such an interesting take because I think to Crosshair, I don't think he sees it that way. I don't think any of the Bad Batch see it that way.
No, I think they see the mission as like keeping her safe.
Right, and they've tried to stay out of that bigger mission.
Yeah.
Right? And there is no bigger mission. That is the mission. Find somewhere to live, lay low, live a normal life.
Yeah.
Right? As best they can. And they're constantly being told by Rex and by Echo and Gregor probably that they have a responsibility not just to themselves but to the galaxy to use their skills to not just and to their brothers too, their clone brethren. So I just think it's a very mature concept from Omega to pull that out. Anyways, this seems to convince him. He's not easily convinced, but he's convinced here, Crosshair. Back with the villagers, Clone X is about to have a TK trooper burn down a house. A little disappointed we get to see a TK trooper with like a specialized flame,
like a flamethrower,
look.
Yeah,
I think that a missed opportunity, but fair enough. About to burn down a house, but Omega surrenders in a very public way.
Yeah,
I think it's important that she does this in a public way.
I think so too. Yeah.
Clone X warns his team to stay alert for Crosshair. He's like, I neutralized the other two, but there's still a third. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means he is, thinking ahead. She insists on being taken in exchange for leaving the island alone. And again, important that she does it publicly because people hear her say that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that necessarily means yet. Like how much that, obviously it'll mean a lot to the villagers, but how do they play in? It's unclear. I'm sure they'll help in some way. I love it. Clone X's response though. Then you should have never come here in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is such a you made me do it type of attitude.
That and I thought after he said that he was going to be like burn down that house. Like I thought he was going to tell all of them to start setting things on fire because that is a very imperial. We see Death Watch do it in Clone Wars where it's just like they get what they want and then they still burn everything down.
Yes,
they still kill a bunch of people.
That's the most. Yeah.
It's like that extra.
It's gangster
punishment.
attitude. This is what it's like. You. It's not just that it's not good enough that I get what I want. You also have to be hurt.
You have to be hurt and suffer, and exactly.
Because I'm upset because I hurt inside. Anyway, so they scan her for tracking devices. She gives up her comm. Crosshair watches from afar. As Omega is being escorted, Crosshair makes his way to a vantage point to shoot a tracker onto the ship that's taking her. But she has to dodge TK troopers on the way, or he has to dodge TK troopers on the way. Down on the beach, Hunter has swum ashore and is greeted by Batcher, as Travis points out. That's the last time we see him. But he is happy to see Batcher. That is nice. Omega takes in the damage that was done as Clone X calls in his ship remotely as they walk down the dock so it can pick them up and take them to Tantus. She's led aboard. She gives one final look back. I feel like what she's doing here is kind of being like, Crosshair, it's now or never type of moment. Crosshair gets into position, but is ambushed at the worst time. It's just so unlucky.
Yeah.
Right? By two troopers. He takes them out relatively quickly, but as he runs to return to the spot, he has to shoot on the fly, and he's just a little bit too late. I feel like it was going to hit. I don't think it was off. The aim wasn't necessarily off.
No, I don't think the aim was
I just think
off.
the ship left before he could hit it.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's no way they're gonna get this. I was like, there's no way he's gonna get this shot.
No, I
and even though you could see it coming, it is super disappointing.
Yeah,
and the way that they play the music here, it's so depressing.
Yeah,
that this whole even though you don't see his face, but this you can just tell, Crosshair, who's a character who didn't believe in himself, who Omega did, rescues him from Tantus, convinces him to trust himself that he can make this plan work, and then lets not only her down but himself down.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough. That's a hard one for me.
Yeah. It's such a bummer.
Anyway, aboard the ship as they head back to Tantus, Omega practices her meditation. What do you think do you think she's trying to use the Force here, or do you think she's just meditating?
I think she's just meditating. She's nowhere near strong enough to reach out into the Force and tell anyone or contact, you know what I mean?
Right, but maybe accidentally, she's
maybe.
Hunter, help me, and and maybe somebody picks up on that Force projection. I don't know. It seems, again, that's a stretch, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what's happening. I find it interesting that they would choose to show us her meditating at that moment.
I think it's maybe showing that she's not scared. Like, she's kind of at peace with her decision, and like, it's not necessarily about her reaching out in the Force. It's a little bit more about showing like
she's
like
calm.
She's calm, and
collected.
she's not. Yeah. Like, she's not that she's not worried, but
she's in control of her own attitude, her own mood.
Yeah.
She knows what she's getting herself into, and she's not going to let herself be like cowed into fear.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dramatic music swells as they cut to black for a moment. They've been loving doing that this season.
Yeah.
They cut to black, pause, listen to the scary music, and then we get that music. And you always know it's important because the music continues over the end credits.
Yes.
And this is something that even Game of Thrones did. If they were doing a big, like, shocking finale moment and there's a big score, they would either do two things. No music at all during the credits.
Yeah.
Or the same song would carry over into the credits instead of the typical theme, which of course we see used here. This is a kind of there's not that many moves you can make with the credits, but this is one of them.
Right. It's a little more somber, right?
Yes.
Like, it's,
yeah. Like, okay. Well, again, the name of the episode is The Point of No Return, right? Like, it's just really like, think about that for a moment. That's really what they're saying, I feel like. Okay, that's it. Any final thoughts on that episode?
Very good episodes. Like, I'm glad they did this double drop. We got a super kind of emotional episode in the first one, and then the next one was like very action heavy, very lots of kind of like shock values and disappointments, seeing the Bad Batch fail and seeing the Marauder get exploded. Right? It's just like,
that is so unfair.
We're getting some good gut punches.
I am so pissed about that.
I know, these are some gut punch episodes. It's but it's great. Like, it's great storytelling, and it just makes me so excited.
Yes, this is really
keep moving.
High quality Star Wars.
Very good.
I really wish people would be like, get off their high horse about animation or whatever, because it's like, this is really good storytelling, and it's not just, yes, it's a kid's show, and this is being done in 30-minute formats and all that kind of stuff. But so is X-Men '97, and people love that show, and there's nostalgia there. But I promise you, if you were a Star Wars fan, that the Bad Batch is for you. Obviously, if you're listening to this at this far, you know that. I don't have to repeat that. But anyway, let's quickly end on this. This is from Ann Mickelson. This is the same person.
I can tell by the explanation.
The same person who reviewed the last episode. This one, though, 10 out of 10. Titled Intense Development.
Yeah.
This was another thrilling experience that had me on the edge the entire time. It is clear now that we are getting closer to the end, and things are getting more serious, and we start to feel the consequences of it and the power of the Empire. This episode has our characters realize that the Empire will never stop searching for them, and that they will have to focus on the bigger mission while they still can.
Mm-hmm.
The tension was incredible, and the moments of action were well animated and directed. The ending was a great way to make the rest of the show very exciting, as well as leaving you excited to see how this whole situation will be resolved and what the consequences will be. Yes, we can tell you're very excited. A great two-parter. Yeah, it is a great two-parter. And by the way, I have loved, as much as it's hard work for us, I will say I do love these two.
Me too.
The two-parters that they've done this season. I like any time that they can like really raise the stakes, and I feel like when they're like, okay, we're doing 2 episodes, right? That to me is an indication that the stakes are being cranked up just a little bit, right? And that's proven to be true throughout this season, and it's making for a very entertaining final season.
Yeah.
So next week, single episode, it is Juggernaut, followed by 3 episodes after that. We have 1 episode next week, 1 episode the week after, an episode. Actually, if there's no more 2-parters left, I still expect the ending, the final episode, is gonna be longer than 30 minutes. I just got a hunch on that one.
Got a hunch, yeah.
So Juggernaut into the breach, flash strike, and the cavalry has arrived. My guess is that they confront Tantus by episode 13. So not next week, but the week after.
Yeah.
And that we'd spend 3 weeks covering that potentially. Again, it's hard to say for sure, but we're really down to 4 final episodes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then we'll, again, of course, that will bring us into May 1st, and then May 4th will be Tales of the Empire, and then after that we'll have a short break before the Acolyte comes around.
Yeah. Lots of content.
Oh my God, so much fun. Okay, on that note, we're already gone too long. Thank you for listening. If you've gone this far, you've pat yourself on the back. You've earned it.
Mhm.
We'll be back next week with more Star Wars. But until then, may the Force be with you.